Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna add all the public here if we're ready.
Yes, we're ready.
Yep, everyone's in.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Directors of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District of the County of Jefferson, State of Colorado will hold a regular meeting at 6 p.m. Tuesday, May 10th, 2022 at 13919 West U5, Lakewood, Colorado 80228. This meeting will be held for the purpose of conducting such business as may come before the board. This meeting is open to the public. Virtual meeting option. For those who may not be able to attend in person, the district will offer the option of participating in this meeting via video/conference call. To attend, please go to https://us06web.zoom.us/89533225776 or call 669-900-6833 and enter the meeting ID 895-3322-5776. To troubleshoot issues with the connection at the time of the meeting, please follow the link https://hc/en-us/sections 200-305-593-troubleshooting. If you still experience issues, email customerservice@greenmountainwater.org and our IT staff will assist you as soon as possible. The district does not discriminate on the basis of race, age, national origin, color, creed, religion, sex, sexual orientation, or disability in the provision of services. People with disabilities needing reasonable accommodation to attend or participate in district board meeting can call 303-985-1581 or email customerservice@greenmountainwater.org for assistance. Please give notice as far in advance as possible so we can accommodate your request. So I'm going to move to agenda item number 1, call to order and declaration of a quorum. And we have a new board tonight, so the agenda is not quite accurate. So Jeff Baker here, go around the table.
Todd Hooks here.
Dave Wickman.
Welcome aboard.
Karen Morgan here.
Roger Wendell.
Welcome aboard. We have a quorum with the 2 new directors. I'm going to close agenda item number 1 and move into agenda item number 2, directors matters, disclosure matters. Do any of the directors have anything to disclose? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to. I don't think there's any sort of conflict of interest, but being very cognizant of the fact about appearances, trying to avoid any appearances of impropriety. I think everybody here probably knows,
Well,
but
can I ask you, just because we've got our scribe on there and you guys are new, and maybe, like I say, this is Dave Wickman, until they get used to hearing your voice or something. Sorry to interrupt you, Dave.
no, of course, that's a good point. So Dave Wickman, disclosures. I've been involved in politics around here for a couple of decades now. And in that process, I've worked with an awful lot of people, including, I think, everybody on the board, everybody involved around here. And I think I should mention the fact that I've had dealings with lawyers, Joe Timmons, Scott Gessler. The only lawyer I really haven't had any dealings with is the new guy, but that's changing real quick. So anyway, my point is, I know all these folks over the years in various different projects. I'm currently not working with them on anything right now, have no financial relationships. Personal's not really there. But the point is, I've worked with lots of people, including these lawyers whose names have come up in the last few years.
Okay.
I think you all know that, but I want that to be on the record. And if I see something come up with those guys that looks like it might be a situation, I would go ahead and recuse myself. Right now, I don't see that where that would happen. But again, like I said, I want to avoid any appearances.
Thank you very much.
And Dave and I spoke yesterday, and it was my opinion that there was no formal conflict of interest that he needed to disclose, but that just transparency was always good.
Yep. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay.
Excuse me, this is Nick with Centennial for the minutes. How do you spell your last name, sir?
I spell it correctly. Everybody else spells it wrong. No, seriously, it's W-I, I before E, so it's W-I-E-C-H-M-A-N.
Thank you.
All righty. Anyone else? If there's nothing else, we'll close directors matters, disclosure matters. We'll move to approval of additions to and deletions from the agenda.
I have a couple of items.
Okay,
It looks like we were able to get Sue Blair on with us. I don't know if she had a specific spot in here. We had elections under directors matters. But if that is indeed where we are talking about the election, it may be good to bump that discussion up before approval of the minutes.
that would be fine. So we would move that to number 5.
Yep.
Okay, I think we need a motion for that.
Okay, I'll move to add a discussion with Sue Blair about the election to be number 5 on the agenda.
I will second that.
Okay, discussion? No discussion, call for vote. All in favor of the agenda adjustment, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays, so the motion passes. We move election items to agenda item number 5.
I would also like to add the election of officers to the agenda, which I don't know that we need to do at this meeting, but I thought that was customary to be doing. Does that need to be the first thing that we do? Can we wait until directors matters and do it? Until next time?
I think that it would be appropriate under as soon as possible. No reason to stop from doing that.
Okay. Can we follow that then? Maybe put election of officers after the election discussion with Sue? So have that as 5A.
6, how about,
6.
do you need a motion?
6. So I'll motion to move election of officers to be item 6 on the agenda.
I will second it.
We have a second. Any discussion? Okay, call the vote. All in favor of moving this to agenda item number 6, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays, so the motion passes. Anything else?
Yes, I would like an executive session to continue the negotiation discussions about the 10700 Exposition Drive we started last time. So that is currently under legal matters anyway. We'll probably have some of those, but I'd like that. So I move to add a executive session for the purpose of negotiations to be item 11.
Bill, are we okay with that? Okay. All right, motion.
So moved. Yes, I think I motioned.
I will
To
second
make
the
it
motion.
We have a
Number
second. Discussion. Call the vote. All in favor of this moving into executive session, which is agenda item currently what or was 11. I guess it would become 13 now with these adding these 2 in there. So
Good
all in
point.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We will add that to the executive session. Anything else, Director Moore?
No, that's it. Thank you.
We're going to move into agenda item number 4, public comment. Limit 5 minutes per person from past motion of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District Board of Directors, May 11, 2021. Members of the public wishing to address the board during the public comment period are asked to keep the comments civil and related to the items in the agenda or to the conduct of district business. Members of the public wishing to address the board will be recognized by the board to maintain proper decorum. Since Green Mountain Water and Sanitation Board values your input, we always offer additional opportunities for the public to provide comments by using the district's email system or by phoning into customer service in the event they do not get on during the meeting during the period set aside for public comment. So with that being said, I will we'll start in the room here. I will open it up to anybody in the room.
Jeff, I guess I'm the first one.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
First of all, I want to congratulate Roger and David. Well done. Glad to see you guys on the board. And I want to apologize,
Can you state your name for the
Oh.
scribe, please? Thanks.
Dave Garner, former board member. Thank God, former. I also want to apologize to Todd for not running against him because 2,600 votes is just way too many for any one person to get.
Wow.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
I do want to address one issue that Karen has added, and that is the issue of the elections. I didn't think it was wise for any of you all to fight the fight out there in public as to what happened with the missing ballots. So I did it for you on Nextdoor and other places. You don't have to thank me, it's not necessary. But seriously, it would be something I hope the board would consider whether or not it was appropriate to ask Jeffco elections officials what happened by letter. So they would reply to you by letter so that you can inform district residents as to what actually happened, because there is a perception out there that somehow the board let them down. And that's clearly not the case. That's it.
Thank you.
Alex Plotkin, I will second the sentiments of Mr. Gardner here. And I have it kind of written down here, not so good at public speaking. The previous board of Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District left a legacy rarely seen in government these days. One, reserve fund, which grew from about $14.5 million to $20 million. This district, as you all know, just as in decades prior, carries no debt and no additional levies are assessed on the residents. Number two, the rates were capped as some of the lowest among the districts in the area. Number three, not one, but two system development fee increases were instituted to ensure that the fees are commensurate with inflation. Number four, the board requested that the meetings be recorded, a practice that was not in place prior to 2018. And five, most important of all, the public got a seat at the table with their representatives using their unique strength for one purpose, to perform the fiduciary duties to the public and not those who bring in the larger competing contributions. The board, of course, was not alone in this success. The support of the staff in achieving the above has been invaluable. As an outgoing director, I would also like to thank the constituents for their support. And with that being said, I must say personally to the people in the room here, I learned a great deal from Jeff, Karen, Todd, and Dave, and Dylan, and Jesse. And so with that, again, thank you all. So now as a constituent, I welcome the two new board members, and I look forward to the new board proceeding forward to do even greater things for the district, as this is an opportunity to start with a clean slate and learn from each other with a great foundation to build upon. If the new board needs some help and ideas, I would be glad to be of assistance. Thank you all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone online, Jesse?
Yeah. Ludmilla, you're free to unmute yourself at your discretion.
Good evening. My name's Ludmilla. I just wanted to say congratulations to all. Maybe we can get some lunacy resolved here and out of the way. It's been 2 or 3 bad years, but I am so glad we're back to normalcy. Congratulations, Todd. Congratulations, whoever. Oh, David and Roger. And thank you, Mr. Plotkin. You've been wonderful, and I'm glad you hung in there for as long as you did. And Mr. Gardner for stepping up and taking care of business. And I just wanted to say, I received my ballot a week or a week and a half later. I called Green Mountain, asked them, and I said, well, I'll just wait and see what happens. And it showed up. So I attributed it personally either to the mailman or them getting distributed by the county or whoever does that. I personally did not say that the board had anything to do with it. How could you? You just hired somebody to do this. So I am so glad. Oh, and congratulations for the recall. I never got to say that to everyone, especially you, Karen. You put up a fight. Congratulations. That's it.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else from the public online who would like to speak? Going. You have to raise your hand online. Okay, Don, I'm closing out public comment. We're moving up the new position of agenda item number 5, which is election of officers to the district. Then I will yield the floor to you. It's your motion.
It was my motion. I was thinking that I was motioning to have Sue talk first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did
Okay.
I messed up. I'm sorry. Sue? Can you unmute? And I messed up. You were supposed to go first.
Thanks for moving me up on the agenda. I very much appreciate it. So wanted to give the board kind of final numbers. The election will be certified. UOCAVA deadline is tomorrow. The last day that we can certify the election is next Tuesday. We had a total number of ballots that went out to active eligible electors of 27,649. We had 4,319 ballots returned. Undeliverable ballots that come back to us, ballots obviously can't be forwarded. That number we're at 957. And the district is responsible to pay postage for those coming back in. So we had about a 15.6, I think I calculated, return on this election. That's not a horrible percentage by any means. We had some that were as low as 6%. We had a couple that had Tabor issues on them and they were up at like 55%. So it kind of depends on the election. Regarding the voter registration list, we got the initial list. Those ballots were mailed on April 11th. Then I found out through another district election, an elector had called me that was a long time elector of the district. And she's like, I didn't get my ballot, Sue. So I looked at the voter registration list for this district. She wasn't on it. So she called the county clerk. County clerk told her that the issue was that they had issued the district voter registration lists prior to the redistricting being completed by Jeffco. And we found that out on a Wednesday afternoon. We got the revised list, and this affected all of my districts in Jefferson County. I had 9 elections going. And we got the supplemental lists. We were able to turn those ballots and get them out before noon on Friday. So fortunately, we had enough stock in hand that didn't become an issue, because you've probably heard paper this year has been an issue. So we were able to turn those as quickly as we could. Just so you know that the counties always supply us with a supplemental list under the statute, which is 10 days after the original list. So there's always 2 pieces, but the volume, the number of folks that were on that second list was very unusual. Typically, we're looking at supplemental lists of a couple hundred. The list they provided, there was over 4,500 when we did a duplicate check. It dropped it to 4,170. So the second batch of ballots totaled 4,170.
Thank you very much for that update. It sounds like you had a crazy election cycle, so.
It was busy. Yeah. Fortunately, I actually bought paper last fall, so we had it sitting in the warehouse, or we would have really been in trouble.
Thanks for being proactive like that. So you probably averted a secondary problem.
That's right.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Sue? Sue, thank you so much for your time and everything you do. We really enjoy working with your company, and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. If any questions come up, you know how to reach me.
Okay, thanks, Sue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will close agenda item number 5, which is discussion on the election with Sue Blair. And we will open up agenda item number 6, which is election of district officers.
Can I make a motion?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to move that we retain the officers we had from last year.
Yeah, we could do that. Well, I think we can do that without, I'm trying to remember what the Roberts call.
I'm saying do it as a group.
Okay,
Yeah, you can have a slate of officers in a single motion.
Okay.
So that would be Jeff Baker, president, Karen Morgan, vice president, Todd Hooks as treasurer, and then there would need to be a new nomination for secretary because Director Plotkin was secretary.
I'll throw my hat in as much as, well, there's only Roger not here. And since I've got a little bit more experience than Roger, I think, I don't know if these are gonna be 2-year terms or not, but I was thinking if I started off, and then, maybe next year or something like that, might pass it on to Roger, but give him a chance to get up to speed.
oh, so I think these run 2 years, don't they?
These will be, so Roger and Dave have 3-year terms.
Okay.
There will be another election next year. It'll be the first odd year election. This was the last even year election. So next year will be 4-year terms, and then the next election will be 2025. So
So I'm volunteering for this year, and then I'm planning on nominating Roger next year.
Yeah, this is Roger Wendell speaking. It's something we discussed earlier, and I'm probably the least experienced person here. I'd like to observe most of this for the following year, then we can make another decision.
Okay, sounds good. So we have a second on Dave Wickman's motion.
I'll second it.
Todd Hooks is seconded. Do we have discussion? No discussion. All in favor of the measure, say aye. Aye. We have 5 ayes, 0 nays. The motion passed. So we have,
Not discussion, but I did want to make the point that some people recommended that course of action to me. And it was because they felt that you guys did a real good job here in the last 6 months. And I was like, don't be changing, riders and mid-horse, or change horses and mid-ride, whatever.
midstream.
Yeah, midstream. And it's like, if you got a successful thing, stick with it. So I want to pass on those compliments.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully we can kind of keep things going smooth.
But the
So-
bigger question is, we're assuming you all wanted to retain your, continue with your positions.
I don't care one way or the other, as long as whatever we need to keep the ball moving. So if everyone's good with that. I'm good. So, all right, well, we have our new election of officers. Thank you, everybody. I will close agenda item number 6. We will move into
So that makes
this
the
would be,
minutes as 7.
approval of the minutes, which will now be agenda item number 7. I would like to make a motion, and I don't think, so Roger, I know Dave knows about this, typically that, they'll post the minutes and everything before the board meeting, and you can go through and look at edits. So when we get to this point, if they haven't got the edits in, you can just, tell them or avoid voting for it, tell them we need to do the edits before we approve them. So typically, prior boards, sometimes like we were starting to back up for months. It's like, I don't think it's, doesn't have to get granular. If you want to give a quick brief explanation to, I know Dave knows this, but at least sort of Rogers, yeah, like what the minutes are supposed to be and what they're, and so we don't get, give him a good explanation and then.
Sure.
So, okay.
Sure. So the minutes are designed to be the written official record of the conduct of the board. And that's at a bare minimum, it's motions made by whom, seconds made by whom, votes, the number of votes, and the general topic, any discussion at the very minimum. And then at the more maximal level, and the district, in my opinion, this district takes a more maximal approach to the minutes with sort of a summary but recitation of the discussion of the agenda items leading to the vote or not a vote if there's no formal action taken. And then the minutes, once adopted by the board at subsequent meetings, become the official formal record of the board. So even though the district records its meetings and those recordings are available to the public or as has happened, court proceedings, for example, what's written is what's relied upon and statutorily required that it be kept in written format. Written text format that's searchable now. So basically that means an original PDF.
In perpetuity.
These days. It's not in perpetuity, but it is for a long time. The district has adopted the state archivist's records retention policy, and I don't actually know how long minutes are to be kept. The written record, but a long time.
Right.
Yeah. And realistically, there's no reason to get rid of them. So in perpetuity is a practical consequence of that.
Fair enough.
So Roger, and Dave, I'm assuming just because he's been to so many of these things, he could probably write some Robert's rules addendums, but if you need us to slow down or like explain something, let's do
Oh,
that.
yeah, I'm not shy. I appreciate the
Yeah.
offer.
Yeah.
I'll probably abstain from this vote because I wasn't here.
Yeah, but if you need us to hit the brakes or do an explanation, let's do that so you can understand exactly, we don't need to keep moving if you're not used to it or understand it.
No, I appreciate that. I'll take advantage of it.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
You betcha.
And I'd like to say, I do appreciate the attitude of keeping the records as long as possible. As you know, I was with the city and their attitude was on the day that it was over, that it was required, man, they were burning it the next hour.
And that is my general recommendation is you've adopted the archivist's recommendations, follow them. But, I research things occasionally and I found something that was useful in 1974 minutes the other day. So not 74, 94.
We do have stuff.
Well, if you want. That may come looking
Enthralling.
We go back to the 50s, so just go downstairs to the left to see them in the 1950s.
Well, I used to work for the feds, and that was one of the things that other duties as assigned was doing what we call FOIA requests. And my management was like, burn this stuff as soon as the deadline comes up. We have to keep it by law until this date. But on this date, burn it because, we don't want anybody, if you don't have a record, it can't be a problem. I didn't like that attitude, so I'm glad our attitude is better.
All righty. Well, we know we have stuff back in the 50s, so.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
59 was my birth year, so.
Good job.
All right, so I'm going to motion to approve the April 12th, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
I had an edit to the minutes that I did send in, but I would approve the minutes as I edited it, and that was basically to reflect that John Hendrickson is not suing us. He's suing all of us. So that's how it reads in the minutes as if.
Yeah. Good catch, Karen.
Oh, so it's minor, but so I would have.
It's not minor.
I mean,
It's really not minor.
It's not a big action, but
No, good catch.
but
Okay.
besides that, I would approve with those amendments.
Do I need to re-motion? Withdraw and re-motion with edits?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll withdraw the motion and I will create a new motion to approve the April 12th, 2022 regular meeting minutes with Director Morgan's edits. Do I have a second? Dave Wickman seconded. Discussion? No further discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. We have 5.
Abstention.
Oh, we have 4 ayes and 1 abstention. So the minutes pass. I will close agenda item number 7 and move into agenda item number 8, the district manager report, and yield the floor to Jeff Tyus.
Excuse me one moment. The director who abstained, that's Roger. What is your last name, sir?
Wendell, Wendell.
Thank you.
All right, so the district manager report, when it just gets back up here, I'll put it on the screen, but it's in your board packet too. So in the outline, we're just going to go through the welcome to board members, the introduction, mission, vision, values, and goals, recognition, performance dashboards, and operational status. So, the staff here would like to recognize all the board members for your hard work. I know you guys put a lot of time, effort, and passion into coming here and taking care of a lot of major things for the community. So thank you all board members, and thank you very much, Roger and David, for working hard to get here. Thank you for your dedication and support. Introduction. So Green Mountain Water does have a very solid foundation. It was founded in 1951 as Green Mountain State Park, part of the city of Lakewood. And, we are part of the Colorado Special Districts, and we have 22 employees. We have over $250 million in assets. We have a $16 million operating budget. And thank you, Alex. And we have zero debt. And there is all kinds of different special district training you can get on the special district website. Look at that training. We do get our water we're a master metering program. We get our water from Denver Water. Denver Water has a huge infrastructure. The water treatment plant that supplies us water is the Martian Water Treatment Plant. It's located off of Quincy and Wadsworth. And, we partner up with them for water quality and water supply. So they do a fantastic job, and they have, billions and billions of dollars of infrastructure and water sources. And so, they only approve water supply within our boundaries because water is scarce, and all improvement of development must go through, as you well know, better than anybody, the city of Lakewood and some areas that are unincorporated in Jefferson County. So in Green Mountain Water, we do have 11 storage tanks and 8 pump stations, which is quite a bit. And that's because of the geographic area and the way it's laid out, but it also creates redundancy. The drinking water system is called the distribution system, and it's different size pipe pressure zones. And then from there, same customers, we're supplying water to over 10,000 meters and over 45,000 customers. And that all those same customers do convey the wastewater through the collection system. And it's, collection system is a gravity fed system. It's not under pressure, and it flows downhill and eventually goes into these interceptors that are low lying like by creek beds. So, from here, a lot of things flow down to the 36-inch interceptor pipe that flows along Bear Creek and eventually flows to a big 96-inch line interceptor that flows to it's called Metro Water Recovery. Now it used to be Denver Wastewater. So they changed their name, and it's in Commerce City. So, you can imagine all the, they're treating around upwards of 200 million gallons a day plus. So we have agreements with them, and we work with them on a lot of their standards too. And they must approve if somebody goes outside of our boundaries to tap into our system, they have to approve that. So, we are regulated, since we do have a public water ID number under the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. So we are regulated by the Colorado Department of Health under federal laws that were passed in the 70s, the Clean Water Act for wastewater and the Safe Drinking Water laws for the drinking water part. So that's basically the introduction. I know Green Mountain Water has a very solid foundation. It has a great history, and it's a pleasure to work here. Does anybody have any questions on the introduction? Pretty straightforward.
It's nice we didn't get this when we came on. That's a good high level thing. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for being here in Green Mountain. You got, everybody lives here. It's a wonderful area. So, we established working with the board and the staff, coming up with the mission. So, the mission is very important because the staff does have input on the mission. So, and keep in mind, a lot of the staff, including me, have friends and close family that live in the district, and a lot of them actually grew up and went to Green Mountain High School here. So Green Mountain Water Sanitation District providing reliable water and sanitary sewer service to ensure public health and safety because we care about the community, and they truly care about the community. Our vision is to build trust and a positive relationship with the board of directors and the community, and that will be ongoing, continuous. Our values are safety, integrity, reliability, and accountability. And our goals actually to help customers conserve water because, as the Denver metro area grows, water is becoming very scarce. I've been in business for over 30 years, have great friends that work at Aurora, Denver Water, and they scramble, especially Aurora is very scrambling for water. Water is hard to come by. And continue to invest in our infrastructures because, we're dating back to 1951. So we can replace drinking water lines, and then we can line sewer lines, which is a lot easier than replacing drinking water lines. And then our network infrastructure is, Jesse works very hard securing that. We're going to see that. And then employee retention is big because the job market is very huge, and we rely a lot on our employees with the good job they do. So those are our mission, vision, values, and goals. Any questions on that? So we'll go to recognition. So these are important recognitions for the Green Mountain Water System. They have a great safety record. when you go into tier 1 and tier 2 violations, those are what you see on the news. Like a tier 1 violation is, which happens, believe it or not, is issuing a boiling water issue that's happened to some districts, which is a tough violation to swallow. So, in the history of Green Mountain Water, they've never had a tier 1 or tier 2 violation, which is, we'll keep up to date on that. So, and then right now, there's a lot of emphasis coming through the federal government and the American Water Works Association and the Water Environment Association for network security. Jesse has done a great job implementing continuous improvement by implementing the latest standards on network security. That's ongoing. That will be always ongoing. Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a quick question. So, a big thing for myself when I was working in the facility world was no lost time with accidents over 5 years, safety record, and no tier 1 or 2 violations. Are we doing any kind of a thank you type luncheon or something like that for the employees or something on an annual deal when these milestones are hit?
No, sir. We have not set up the specific celebration for those things, but we can do.
Does that sound reasonable to everybody? Because I think it's so important. Though the facility world, when you have every time you take an injury or something, your rates go up substantially, and then especially like the tier 1 and 2, the fact that we have this really good record.
Well, Jeff, not only is your point good, but we actually used to do that. I remember a decade or so ago, there would be like, I can't remember, it was an annual picnic or a Christmas party, and it got killed because at that point, somebody on the board was like, well, we're wasting money and we shouldn't be doing that sort of stuff. And I always thought that was kind of silly. That recognition is something that you do in a good organization. And getting back to that makes sense.
Well, you should celebrate successes, and those are really big successes. So, that's okay with the board. I don't think we need a motion for like that, but, I would like to, Jeff,
Yes, sir.
Direct you to, when we, at some annual point, we'll celebrate this stuff for the staff.
Okay. We can
Not to dwell on the dark side, what's an example of a tier 1 or a tier 2 violation? And I assume this is through OSHA?
No, so the tier 1, tier 2 we really emphasize it through the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. So a tier 1 violation, an example of that is if you violate a maximum contaminant level in the water, which could be like really, like uranium, or you could violate what they call total coliform, which is a bacteria in the water, which you would have to issue a boiling water alert. Or like, if you had a massive fire and you had to use raw water to put it out and you lost pressure of the system and you got zero pressure, that would create a cross connection. So those are tier 1. Tier 2 violation. So a tier 1 violation has to be notified the public immediately. A tier 2 violation, it'd be on the news, radio, and reverse 911. Tier 2 violations are not as reasonable as notifying the public right away, but include if there was a backflow event and isolated, and you have to notify the public usually within so many days. So that's also governed, all that's governed by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, where when you get into OSHA rules, it gets into a lot of statistics on lost time accidents and if somebody was severely hurt or killed.
And how does this record compare to other districts, just roughly?
So we're way above average because a lot of, if you read the consumer confidence reports that are published by all water districts required by the EPA, which is enforced by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, they list all their tier 1, tier 2 and violations on there. So, if you go to any other water district, you can see some of the tier 1 and tier 2 violations. Tier 2 could be like if they're not checking their water storage tanks properly. So we compare above average.
But I
It's
think
really
the
good to
Marshall
hear.
Fire,
Yeah.
with what happened up there, and I think they had a tier 1
Yeah, that's all tier 1.
violation. So that would be an example. And
Inglewood had a boiling water issue, and then Castle Pines had a boiling water issue. These are tough issues to talk about because I know a lot of these people, and
Right, well,
they work very hard.
No, I appreciate just a general comparison. And I must say, as a long-term resident up on Foothill Drive, we had no problems in my neighborhood, just excellent service. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. And so, yes, we'll look at celebrating the those safety records and good compliance. So if our water, our control system is set up where it's real-time control over the water tanks, the pumping, and some of the wastewater pumping stations. So it's real time, it's 24-hour, measures every second, and it's backed up by a lot of servers and a lot of networks. So it's pretty high tech. And then,
Do you want to talk real quick about that? So that's kind of, Jesse, you're working the SCADA stuff, right? I mean, some of this stuff, going forward, it's kind of like there's like a classified level to
What was the word you just used?
SCADA.
SCADA.
Yeah.
What is SCADA?
supervisory control, analytical data analysis. It's a control system that you see on a computer screen. So as you can see, pumps go on and off, levels of tanks, flows, real time. It goes through an antenna network, and that's isolated to us, and then it comes into our system where we can see it on our iPads in a control.
Well, and some of that you guys will, at some point,
Yeah, we
we
can show you a
need
tour.
to probably brief the new director. So there's a Department of Homeland Security level to this stuff for probably obvious reasons. So
I was kind of wondering about that. Okay, thanks.
yeah. So if you wonder, yeah, some things are not for public consumption prior to Jesse. He'll scream at you or something. So we
Maybe
just have to-
someday too, we could tour some of this or get a kind of hands-on look.
Yeah.
Historically, the board usually has come by the office, we kind of show the new board members around, how the office is there. Karen came on for me. Yeah, we showed everyone who's like, come, so we can, give a tour, kind of show how we operate. Probably better use of time than even during the board meeting anyways. And one board member can come by at a time, one or two, or whatever. So we can do that, whatever anyone likes. Austin's probably more in the SCADA space for operations. A supervisory position for IT. I love it.
I'd be interested someday, it's no rush, to see some of the physical facilities, maybe a pump station or something, but it's not urgent.
Yeah, we could give tours to anybody, as long as it's one or two people, anytime. So just send me an email. We'll set it
Sure.
up. Yeah, so our SCADA system is very high tech, and we try not to put anything on this. It is very secure, like Jeff Baker said. So we try not to publish anything on screen or anything. So we do have the ability to repair our water and wastewater systems in house. We have some of the best crews you can imagine that could fix a broken water pipe within a short amount of time, and we have the resources to do it, which in this day and age is a big deal because of supply chain issues and contractor issues with the competitive job market and the inflation and costs. So we're on top of that, which a lot of water systems don't have the ability to do that. So it's very expensive to hire contractors to fix broken water mains or any part of the system. So we do a lot of in-house work. The customer service and the field guys do a great job of having 18,000 customers inquiries, whether it be inbound calls or outbound calls or emergency calls or emails, which you'll see in the graph here, we're handling over 1,700 a month. Sanitary sewer, so it's a big deal if a manhole overflows. It's called sanitary sewer overflow. So we don't have very many of those, which is a really big deal. And the reason we don't is because we are part of asset care, predictive preventative maintenance. The teams are always out checking the sewer lines every day, and they're able to do the whole sewer collection system in less than 3 years, then start over. So it's ongoing. So they do a lot of, they use camera trucks, visual inspections. We have jet trucks, vac trucks. So we have a lot of equipment to check the system out. So we have modern asset care tools. And you look at like a lot of the maps behind your global GIS systems, and we track a lot of those things with the district. That over there is a wastewater collection. This is the drinking water side over here. So we're able to track a lot of things that are going on to take care of the assets, because like I said, we have over $250 million in assets. So we do have modern, the best available computer systems to track those assets. And so recognitions continue. Like I said, the retention of employees is critical. We do have a great staff of employees that are they've never missed, they always showed up to work during COVID. They've been working through a lot of the issues going on with the economy, so they keep coming to work. They do a great job. They do proactive planning. We do have critical parts backed up. We do research resources to make sure the water system continues to run. Just like what Sue Baker said with the buying paper early, we do buy a lot of resources early to make sure they're critical. Like Alex said, we've been 20 years with zero debt, which is a big deal. I came from a lot of water systems that had over $100 million in debt. It's very tough to handle $4 million in interest. So the Green Mountain has a very solid foundation. And the employees, they all have, all together, they have over 200 years of experience. And we're working on continuous improvement of rules and regs. That's what a big thing was with this board came up with a capacity for improving the rules and regs to protect not only the infrastructure out there, but also protect our customers. We are coming up with more standard operating procedures to make sure we're in line with all the SDA rules and regs, and all the employees are aware of those. And we're improving our website. So talking to Jess and Sam, we'd like to make sure we have pictures of everybody posted on the website. And we do have this great team. So if we look at all these different skills, I'm gonna go through them all, but every team member has at least 3 of these skills, and some of these team members have a lot more than 3. Like you might look at, Jeff may be an IT expert, but guess what? He could go out and identify, GPS manholes, fire hydrants, all that stuff. So all these maps were built by the IT guys who go out in the field and do global positioning satellites, global information systems on them. So we do have a lot of cross-functional teams. We could, our customer service representatives can actually diagnose a lot of water leaks with the customer. If the customer calls and says, "Why is my water bill so high?" They could help them.
Our guys actually did these?
Yeah, so we have a computer system that Elements, and
Pretty impressive.
yeah, so
Yeah, I assume you bought them from somebody that.
no, we have a computer system we bought, but our guys actually generate that. So that's a good example. Jess and Sam actually spent a lot of time out in the field with the GPS handheld unit, creating those points on that map. How long did that take you?
A summer.
A summer.
We're good nights.
Yeah, we're getting nice because of traffic.
Yeah.
So we do have a lot of multi-talented, and they do work great as a team. Been a lot around great teams. There are great teamwork here. So this is what leads to great teamwork is the customer service dashboard. On the next slide is, you'll see that, we're handling over 1,700 inquiries from our customers. And this is a big deal because, if you call a lot of organizations, they might get back with you in a week or 2 weeks, or you might talk to a robot where you're actually talking to a person and they're resolving these issues within 2 hours. So they could dispatch, with our system, they could, we do have a very modern control system where we can look at meters and figure out data and do analysis where we can take care of our customers. So that's why we have this excellent 2-hour response time to resolve issues. So you can see it goes up and down, and you see that spike there. That's when we contact customers about resolving disconnects and connects of water from billing. Any questions so far on recognition or dashboards? So we'll go to the next dashboard, which this is an important dashboard to me because I've been in this business so long. This is a comparison of water rates. So you can see Denver Water, we're a master metering district from Denver Water that dates back a long time. So Denver, what that means is they're gonna meter the water they send us, but we take care of our customer meters. There's 3 different types of getting water from Denver. There's if Denver actually goes out and controls the system and looks at the meters. Then there's one if Denver just reads the meters. Then there's us if we have a master meter. So we fall in the master meter. So this is a comparison of cost based on 88,000 gallons of water, and the cost kind of goes up with service fees and other charges. Like we get in these other districts that have struggled with treatment and water rights, mainly because they're newer districts. Like I came from Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Authority, which is only dates back to like the 90s. So they're scrambling for water rights. They have massive debt trying to get water. Water's hard to come by, and they're scrambling for treatment too. So that's why their rates are higher. So we were lucky to have Denver Water as a solid water infrastructure supplier And we keep our rates pretty good with using Denver water, because right now, Aurora's doing pretty good. They're expanding, they're getting big, but they're running out of water too. So any questions on this? Okay, then we go into our asset care program. These are doing the predictive and preventative maintenance tasks every day that keep our system in check, so we don't have to worry about emergency tasks. We don't perform too many emergency tasks. You can see how many feet of sewer line we cleaned in the month of April, and all these tasks that were different tasks that were completed. That's 600, 811 is the number you call for locates, which is, there's new laws that we have to locate water underground, water pipes underground and wastewater. So, we're doing 600 of those in the month of April, just because there's a lot of things being put underground nowadays. Any questions on this?
Let me ask you, how long have you been with us now? About
3 months.
Yeah, 3 months. So I just wanted to let the new board members know. So, and Alex is with me for 4 years. We asked for this dashboard, and Jeff Tyus and staff have put this together in 3 months. So this is kudos to all you guys. This is like really, this is good, great stuff here. So
Yeah, it's
this
great
didn't
information.
exist before. So just so you know, so thank you.
Yeah, I think the staff works hard. So
I know they do.
And so the last slide is just the summary of the operation. So this is everything, the staff's been working on. Naturally, we check the drinking water system and the wastewater system all day long, every day, Monday through Friday. So we see it running pretty normal. We don't see any pressure issues or flow issues. That's part of not only checking it on SCADA with monitors, but actually physically checking the pump stations, the tank levels physically, and naturally going out there and inspecting manholes and checking wastewater. And then, the definition of the red zone tank is a drinking water tank that sits right up here by Green Mountain High School. And it recently went under lining, and we had a problem with the lining. So we took the lining out and we put the tank online. And, in order to get the tank online, we actually got to disinfect it, get it online. And then, we're going to talk about this more in depth later, that we had a kickoff meeting with the new development off of 10700 West Exposition Avenue, which will be 29 homes built out and a new street put in. So that was just a construction meeting with the contractors, engineering in the city of Lakewood, just to get them going on that project, with that part of the project that has really not too much with us at that point in time. We'll talk about that more later. Process planning in progress for the sewer liner. So we're going to reline, that's a big deal. So our capital investments are relining sewer pipes that are old. So one of the projects going on this year is there's a sewer line that runs by Bear Creek Golf Course, and it ties into the intercept. It's an outflow that ties into the interceptor for Metro Water. And so we're going to start that's $1 million project, and that line will start to be lined. It's going through all the approval processes, and it'll probably start construction in the fall, because we're working with the golf course, because we'll have to set up equipment on the golf course.
Is that line that the developer wanted to tap into?
No, this is an existing line. It's a pretty old existing line.
Jeff, what's an interceptor?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the interceptor is basically a huge wastewater pipe. So you'll have like a wastewater, the whole system's called a collection piping system. So you have like small service lines. So you figure coming out of the house is a service line, then it goes into a main line, then it goes into a trunk line, which is a bigger line in the street. And then from a trunk line, it goes into a very large line called the interceptor. So most of the Metro water recovery lines, the big wastewater lines that run the Metro water recovery in Commerce City are called interceptors. So we supply our main lines, our trunk lines will supply water to these huge interceptors.
And are these typically what, 36 inches or?
Yeah, you normally depends on the population area, but minimum of 36. Like I said, the Metro water recovery, the two main lines that follow Clear Creek and the South Platte are 96 inches in diameter. So you can imagine, they're like tunnels.
And when you line these, do you lose any capacity?
Well, a little bit. It's just a epoxy liner that goes inside the pipe. It's pretty thin, so the thing is, you want to line them because you can kind of do it quick and fast, and it saves time and makes the pipe last a lot longer. So very little minimum capacity do you lose. It's pretty thin line. Because a lot of our lines, you know, the latest and greatest pipes are PVC pipes, but since our system is older, we don't, you know, we have a lot of clay pipes and ductile iron pipes. So PVC lasts a lot longer, but it wasn't, a lot of PVC wasn't approved for water and wastewater until the 1990s. So that's the biggest project, and that's an ongoing investment in infrastructure. And then, so part of the, you know, part of the April 2, we reviewed a document by CDM Smith. It's a report that really studies the capacity of the wastewater collection system based on computer modeling. So we studied that. We looked at, and they work with Merrick Engineering. Merrick Engineering created a master plan, and so CDM Smith double checked the master plan, and we look at certain aspects of the collection system that need more attention based on the computer modeling and based on our asset care program. So those systems, our job is to double check those visually and with a camera, and also maybe look at new technology that's been proven out through metro water recovery. It's a flow measuring devices. Flow has always been hard to measure in pipes that are not full. It's been pretty hard science to measure flows going through half full of pipes. So new technology has been out that metro water recovery has proven in the past 2 years, and we're looking into it so we can double check the systems. And in the future, if the system of measuring flow works out good, we can insert these type of devices to have and hook it to our SCADA system. So we have real-time flow access that'll give us flow 24/7, because right now in our asset care program, we're just seeing flow at instantaneous times. But we do see on the, you'll see on we show it to you on camera, is on a pipe, when you stick a camera down there, a robotic camera, it will show level marks in the pipe, just like on a reservoir if you have high level marks. So we do examine that too. So we're working with Merrick and CDM Smith on utilizing that. And we do have a utility engineer job too posted, and we're in the process of interviewing for that job. It's a very, very competitive job market, especially with engineers that have PE licenses, because they're coming up on a lot of projects, because there's a lot of money being invested in infrastructure, and more money will be invested in infrastructure as we go on through under bills that are being passed.
And what's a PD license?
A professional engineering license for the
PD.
for the state of Colorado. So they're in big demand. We do have engineering contractors that have PE licenses, because 50% of the things we do that are especially capital projects have to be done by PEs. And there's a lot of resources, as you'll see, as when we pull out drawings and prints and stuff in order to get this type of work done. There's a lot of resources involved to create those drawings and prints. And they have to be approved by all kinds of people. Like just a line of sewer pipe, you got to get Metro Water Recovery approval and Colorado Department of Health approval and City of Lakewood approval. So there's a lot of approval processes. We work hard with, every district has what they call a district engineering company they refer to do a lot of those resource work. And ours is Merrick, because Merrick Green Mountains had traditionally used McLaughlin, and McLaughlin was bought out by Merrick Engineering. So a lot of those engineers know the system inside and out. So we do a lot of work with them. So that includes the manager's report. Any other questions?
Great job.
Yeah, thanks for all your help.
Thanks for getting all that. That's a good looking dashboard.
Very deep.
It was a lot harder to understand all that stuff before. I mean, we knew they were doing a good job, but now, this dashboard, you can to see the work that the district's doing on day in, day out. So
Jeff, did you and Kristen get the Oaks and bond recorded with DOLA?
Yeah, we have we'll download the DOLA documents. We can download them tomorrow. We're working on, I'm in DOLA now.
Okay.
So
let me know if you have any questions about that.
So speaking of Kristen, Jeff, how much longer do you think we need to retain Kristen, or are we scaling back? Or
yeah, we're scaled way back. We talked to Kristen probably, we'll email her for questions, but we're down a very high percentage. She's just working on some past projects. So yeah, we're using Kristen a lot less, or, not because she does great work, it's just we're taking on the work. She's teaching us to take on the work.
Okay,
And we're writing those standard operating procedures.
okay. Thank you. All right, are you covering capital and construction projects? Agenda item number 9.
Yeah, so I get triggered the discussion on so as we talked about, I didn't touch base on it too much, is one of them was just to give you a little history of the ravines open space. So there is if you guys probably know this, Terry, but if you go down Utah, the Jewel, there's a open space by Dustin Middle School, and it has crossings that 2 of them have a wastewater lines under them. One of them to the north has a drinking water line under it. And our concern mainly is the erosion that's happening to the middle one for the crossing. So we've had structural engineers look at that erosion and had looking at our options to replace that crossing, because if the crossing fails, it will put pressure on the wastewater pipe, which could break and then put a lot of wastewater into the ground, that goes back to those high tier 1 violations. So we're working with structural engineers on our option. We have $300,000 budgeted in the capital budget to look at options on fixing that structure.
So at a high level, there's been a lot of push back and forth from Lakewood, where people are calling.
Like I said, you guys have been working on it for a year.
Well, actually longer, but it's been, it's called the Ravine Bridge. It's not a bridge, it's a sewer pipe thing. So we've been going back and forth with the city of Lakewood, and it's not a bridge, and we're not gonna treat it as a bridge. And then there were the issues around Lakewood manages the wastewater, that's
The runoff.
stormwater control. And so there's been all these different dynamics to this thing. So,
Well, not to get ahead, but last time I remember, there was some talk about maybe we can get a grant from some government organization.
Yes. And so I went through a training today on that with SDA, which actually brought in the Colorado Department of Health. So there is grant money out there, a lot of it, but we just have to do more research into that, because the grant money, the priorities of the grant money are districts that are in debt that do not have money. So
if you don't manage your district, you get money. If you manage your district.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Right.
All right.
yes, but so I'm waiting for they'll send me the actual presentation. I'll get back with you on.
So just because there's with the 2 new directors, have they been given access to OneDrive yet, or you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Earlier,
And the tablets, or did we get tablets?
they're on their way.
Okay. So a lot of the information, the repository of all the district information's in the OneDrive in different folders. So, you can kind of look and see if you have nothing better to do with your life, just open one of them folders. You'll go down a rabbit hole, so.
But Jesse gave me a great tour this afternoon, so it'll work.
Sorry to keep interrupting you, Jack.
Oh, no, that's all right. So if you have any questions so we'll get back with you on not only the options for grant money, but also those structural engineering options on the crossing itself. We met on it, and you've probably seen the ravines open space. We can't lower the pipes low enough because of gravity flow. So we probably look at repairing the structure itself. And we have, like I said, there's capital money budgeted for that. So we'll get you back with our options, and if we can call for, there's going to be more grant money coming when more bills are passed. So we'll look at those options. And then the next item on the agenda is
I'm just going to ask questions about it, because just to clarify that did you just say that you were going to look at fixing the existing structure?
We'll look at the options of that, or whatever. We met with engineering last month, and there is an older bid out there that we reviewed that shows a cost of bringing somebody on site. It's a hard area to get to for $175,000 to repair the existing structure within structural engineering standards.
There were the reasons why we did not do that. There were reasons why we did not do that, and we had extensive conversations. So just to bring you up to speed, that there were discussions about that. And there were discussions about why we weren't going to do that. And that's why we ended up looking at rerouting. I think the end point was that there were problems with the original bid. We only had a single bid. It was higher than we thought, and I think we ended up taking off some of the original design, some design possibilities that would have made it more structurally sound instead of just using a shotcrete option. So it probably will be more, and that was just for half of the bridge to stabilize rather than the whole. So adding it up, it will be more than just what that original bid was, but we did have discussions about not doing that, basically for the long-term reasons of not doing, getting that erosion stabilized. So we needed to put it in a better path, whether or not we could rely on Lakewood to, because they've had the option to stabilize that erosion path for decades. So we were looking at that was something that we'd already decided, and that's why Terry has plans to go around. So we were looking at that. So keep that in mind when you come back to that. How did the barricades go on all three of the bridges? Do we have those yet?
No, so all we put up was signs. So we haven't put up any barricades, just signs.
And barricades probably with the signs that have the, not the danger. There was a legal reason why we weren't doing that. Is they're not park. It's not a park facility. It's not a pedestrian bridge.
And let's see, Merrick was pricing and designing barricades. Is that right? Were they looking into that?
That was at the last board meeting.
Yeah. Sort of related, or do we have a engineering section? Is that gonna be under?
Yeah, we asked Terry out there. So we met with Terry. We had a meeting on our options. And one of the options was to barricade it. And so Terry, can you talk about the options on barricading?
Yeah, Jeff, we had looked at for whether we repaired or rerouted the ravine crossing that has the unstable foundation. We looked at some barricade costs for that. But to my knowledge, I haven't received direction. We've debated back and forth signage and or barricades for the other crossings. And I'm not aware that I've been given a go-ahead to design or prepare preliminary costs for those barricades. There was a debate back and forth about whether signage would be sufficient or should we close them off. I haven't been involved in all of the dialogue with Lakewood, but again, I haven't received a final go-ahead. Let's price barricades specific to the other couple crossings. And that'd be quite easy to do. I did a rough cost or preliminary cost estimate, again, for the problem crossing on the ravine. And, you know, it was very robust, but it was over 20,000.
$20,000 for the barricade, just for this specific ravine crossing?
Yes, and that was a conservative, very conservative pricing, Jeff, because we haven't agreed on what type. I did one of the fan type with, you know, very heavy duty welded steel, and you know, a common type is, you know, you have an end like on a top fence that somebody can't climb over because they come to a point, rather than enveloped it with just chain link fence or fencing, or a type of structure that's easier to climb around. But yes, that was for the one that the board decided not to proceed with the construction on. I will say there are 5 crossings 2 of those are clearly pedestrian bridges. It is on the plans for the city that were approved by the city of Lakewood. So 3 would be, I think, would be appropriate for barriers. But 2 of them, yes,
Yeah, those other 2 came later on and they were
correct.
park functions and they had, yeah.
Yes.
Those don't carry pipes.
Keep in mind too that, you know, the third one with the erosion problems, if the crossing collapses, it could take out the wastewater. It probably would take out the wastewater collection line, which would, you know, could collapse, which would be, like I said, a major violation because you'll spill a lot of wastewater into the waters of the state.
Mm-hmm.
So I could be remembering wrong. What I'm remembering, Terry, is that you brought that report to us at about the same time as Mr. Tyus joined us and he was taking a look at that. We were trying to transition. We probably just got it lost because we didn't come back to you on that.
That's my sense of it, Karen, as well.
Yeah, I think we have talked about it and we're just assuming and maybe we missed a step in getting it done, but we do need to get that done. I think we talked about the barricades on all 3 in several meetings and checked all the easements and everything. And I don't know, am I missing something on a step there? We just need to get it designed.
Yeah. Motion second vote.
All right.
Either, and a decision on whether it's going to be 1, 2, all 3, and whether you want that decision to be part of the decision of whether you're proceeding with rerouting or rehabilitating or reconstructing. And I would say probably the barricade is a more pressing, cheaper project.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to be tied into the decision about what to do about the line generally.
Good, because we didn't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, but I do think, well, at least before I think we were having agreement about barricading those. So I'll move to barricade those 3 bridges. I'm still calling them bridges. But that would be, I'm sorry, maybe not. I'll withdraw that motion because.
Are all 3 unsound structurally or just truly the one?
It's the one right now.
It's just the one, but it's all part of the same bridge or not bridge debate.
Are there any drawings or photographs we could review here? Just,
Yeah,
not to go through the
so
whole
long
history,
story short.
I'm familiar with it somewhat.
Long story short, we have they're not bridges, they're pipe trestles, okay, pipe
Right.
ladders. So we need to treat them, the district needs to treat them accordingly. And if we, my layman's perspective, if we allow them to be bridges, you know, or functional bridges, if something happens, I believe there's a district liability there. So we need to barricade.
Not just the wastewater issue, but
Well, yeah, not the tier 1 thing, but
injuries
yeah,
and
I mean,
all
so,
kinds of things, yeah.
yeah, this goes back to when I was a stupid kid running around these fields. So, yeah, we need to.
I'm just curious what the, maybe a proposed drawing of what we're talking about. I understand the situation. But this particular barrier, do we have a drawing or a
So
photograph?
that I guess is why I was hesitating for the motion. Do we need a motion for the decision to barricade or for the money to spend it?
Terry, that 20,000, that was for the one structure.
Correct.
So
And that's conservative given the current bidding climate. But yes, that was for the one.
And that structure, the fan, that's your recommendation for how to construct the barricade?
That was the preliminary concept. But again, I don't think we got down to specifics where we sketched something up or took pictures of existing to show the board and get a final decision. I remember the discourse going back and forth about, you know, do we want to keep them? Do we want to just put signage up? Do we want to stop the crossing? And my recollection, and again, I don't always attend the whole board meeting. Once you're done with the engineering matters, I'll usually bow out. So there may have been discussion after that, but that would be easy to put together some concepts for the board's consideration in a little more detailed cost estimate.
Yeah, so if you're gonna do all three, that puts you into the bidding cost range, if it's
Yep,
if it's
yeah,
gonna be 60.
correct. Could put you in that range.
You know, I know we're reinventing the wheel for my behalf, but it would seem really important to discourage people physically from accessing any of that. So
That's what we're
there's-
trying to do. So
yeah.
we have signage up on it now, but we want, you have to take that extra step.
Sure.
Especially when you look at the trails. I mean, it's understood at some level that these, they're doing what they're not designed to be doing.
Right.
Which is a liability.
Yes, and in particular, the one that is having the structural problem, which is, it's really one bridge abutment. The rest of the structure is pretty sound, but that one bridge abutment, if it were to fail or collapse, that would, that'd be pretty catastrophic. But when you visit the site and you watch that trail over time, that's become somewhat of a channel for runoff, which aggravates, continues the erosion. So stopping that, that path, if you will, would help prolong the life of that bridge. Because it's the plan, and this was discussed with Lakewood, would be to reroute the drainage, fan it away so it's away from the structure going forward. And that would eliminate that ongoing erosion and problem once it was repaired.
Yeah, but Lakewood wasn't going to do anything to remediate the runoff issue until after the district rehabilitates or relocates the structure.
Yes.
But so if we only put up barricades, does that give them the impetus to not?
No, it's like you said, we're still waiting on what we're gonna do based on reroute or rebuild. That's what Lakewood's waiting. Once we've decided, then they will work their stormwater abatement.
Yes.
Well, so
So,
they say, but they can say, oh, you fixed the bridge, no, we don't need to. So that's why I think rerouting is a better option, because why would they, if it's fine now, we fixed it.
But Jeff, you were saying because of gravity. So when we were talking about rerouting, so you were saying because of gravity, it's better to be really where it's at.
Yeah, we've been working with Terry about and discussing, the slope of the wastewater lines flow by gravity, so it's really hard. Like if we wanted to put that underground, it'd be difficult to go that far underground to keep it flowing by gravity, right, Terry? So that's why we looked at.
You're talking under the ravine, that's what we had talked about once, a grant for going under the ravine versus rerouting it down.
So, and since I can't remember, are these pipes in concrete or below the concrete?
They're open below the crossing concrete. So if you look at it, a lot of these crossings were put in for the maintenance of the pipe, because there's a manhole on one side of the pipe, and then you go across the crossing, there's another manhole on that. So it was probably back in the day, they could have been put in not for, for the maintenance of the pipe itself.
So I'm no engineer, but just throwing out so what would happen if we went and just removed the concrete and put in like a bridge structure underneath the piping, a trussel, and then just eliminated, and so that they could not go across, so the pipes were just there?
Yes.
I think that's incorporated into the proposed design for the rehabilitation.
It is, okay.
An elimination of the pedestrian.
Yeah, because that eliminates the liability as well, correct? In a way. I mean, I guess they could go out of the way.
Reduces it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that your understanding, Terry? I was thinking we were not doing that because we can't take away the concrete. We could support it with some other structure, but you're still gonna have the erosion problem. And it's no matter what, you have to anchor it into something that's eroding.
You have to correct, that's correct. You have to resolve and correct the erosion problem. And they were going to drill piers. And shotcrete was only part of the rehabilitation. They were going to drill piers, that they might be 25, 30, 40 feet deep. So that would sustain that even if erosion continued, but we would shotcrete to stem the erosion. But to the question on the structure, when the board asked me to look at rerouting it, and we did prepare a pre-design just to the south of the existing, that is a truss type structure that you are describing that carries the pipe, not a concrete. These are twin T type or concrete structures, so they lend themselves to being a path. And that's the existing, and the pipes were hung under. I got pricing for a steel truss type structure where the pipe sets in it. You would still need a barrier of sort, because you'd find kids wanting to tightrope walk that structure, but.
So that's where we could reuse the fan type barricade, because that's what they typically use on a pipe trestle, correct?
Yeah, similar to that, Jeff. Yes. Yep.
So we could reuse our barricades because that's the standard.
You know, one of the existing crossings is a steel structure, not concrete. And it has a fan type barrier on it already. That's the one in Panorama West, the old North Side District. But that's, you know, that barrier structure is a fan type. It's pretty good, but kids could climb around that. You know, it's got fence mesh on it. It's got angle iron. It doesn't have any features that would defer you, because, you know, it could be, you know, like the sharp type barriers, or think of the wiring, you know, on fencing. You know, it doesn't discourage somebody who wants to try to climb around it. But that one is a steel type structure. So that bridge.
How long has that been there?
It's been there a long time.
Long time. Yeah.
40
Yeah.
years.
I think the drawings I saw, and I looked at all of these, of course, because I was asked to prepare for your insurance purposes replacement costs. So these are covered because those weren't included in your insurance coverage. So I've looked at the design of all of them. And if I recall, this one was somewhere around 1980.
Well, okay, so if there's no barriers there,
Well, there are,
but if they're not 20,000 a shot and there's been no liability for 40 or 50 years, could we save 50 grand doing it that way if there really hasn't been any liability?
well, it would take reconstructing the structures as they exist now into this type of configuration. So it's
Maybe a wash.
well, it's 150 plus whatever inflation plus whatever additional costs of it have accrued project to replace the structure. Whether you, and I think probably everyone is in agreement, including Terry, that it should, whether in a new location or not, the new structure should be this type.
Right.
So,
Yes.
Well, that makes sense. I didn't realize it was that, but that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, and the current structure is, I don't know, 2 foot, 3 foot wide, concrete asphalt surfaced walkway, essentially,
Right.
which is inviting the problem of pedestrian use, which is inviting the.
I used it with my dog myself.
Yeah, it's got chain link fence protected.
I'm one of the guilty parties.
Well, obviously, I mean, this is 10 years later, but this area wasn't designed as a park. And so that's why it looks like was a reason why they were designed as park structures, pedestrian bridges in the park. It was designed that way.
Well, I thought they had done it because of the schools.
Then the schools were open to be walked to at that time. So it was a different, it was obviously planned that way. If they didn't want it that way, they would have done it with the others. It was already in use at the time. So can I make a motion to get to work on the designing of the barricades, and then we'll have to make another motion then for the bids and financing. Is that right?
Yeah, unless you want to do one at a time and keep it under the bid amount.
And I might suggest, when we put together a cost estimate at this stage, it's conservative. The normal, our approach, either as Dylan said, they can be bid one or constructed one at a time and it falls under the 60,000, but you can solicit 2 or 3 prices. And if you exceed the 60, then you have to go out. Would that be fair? Maybe it comes in at 50 for all 3 or 45.
Yeah, it just seems like, I know the costs on the original ravine fix, I mean, the mobilization for some of those was just big. So I don't know if that's for the full, construction, if they can do that for the barricades in place.
You're right. That's the tough part, the mobilization. It's tough access, getting their equipment down in there. They might have to crane.
So it would seem like it would be cheaper for us to do all 3, even if it's an overbid process.
Yeah, it was the 20 for design, fabrication, installation.
Yeah, I think we should do them all at once, because if you're trying to skirt the intent of the bid process, if you break it out into thirds, so should deliver a better result if you package it right, rather than onesie twosies. So.
Yeah. Well, so I'd move to.
We can always salvage that barricade too if we decide to do away with the concrete tees. We'll save that and we'll just put that on the new, whatever that may be, unless it goes to ground. So. So let's do this. Go ahead. Let's make the motion on the.
Motion to put the bid out for the 3 barricades.
Yeah, design and price.
Design and price 3 barricades.
I will second that motion. We have discussion.
What's the threshold for the bidding process? Is it 60,000?
It's 60.
Okay.
Yeah, below that, Jeff Titus he's authorized to go out, and he has actually emergency expenditures above that. I think I remember one time. Emergency, but something we know about like that, we're at that threshold. Okay, any further discussion? Call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes. The motion passes. Terry, you're authorized to move forward.
Great. We'll get started.
And then to follow up on that, Terry, so this kind of, to make sure we're probably understanding this, I guess we need to start coming up with the alternative. What are we going to do with the ravine crossing?
Yes.
We talked about, I would like to see this more. I would like to get away from a trestle or a bridge or anything. Look at running it down towards Jewel, putting it underground, whatever that looks like.
No, Terry will speak more, but he did provide us some plans where he did work on it.
Right, and there's been so many things since then, I forgot where we were at on that, but Terry, for the next meeting, would you be able to maybe, especially since we had got the new board members here, maybe we could have a presentation and come up with alternatives, and we need to probably get moving on this one way or the other.
Yes, that'd be fine, and we have some pictures and old design drawings. We could show a few of those or make them available to the board members so they can, pictures worth 1,000 words, but yes, that's doable.
Clear, I guess what I'd like to see, and I mean, the rest of the board can tell me to shut up on this, but I guess we want to look at just the single ravine crossing, diverting it from there. But I would also, because we have these other trestles, I would like to see an all up, but what we might be looking at an all up, get away from these things altogether. Is there any way to tie them together on the one side of the bank and run it towards Jewel? That way we're not going through this again down the road.
We looked at that, and Austin and Josh and Sam have been out on the site, and Dylan looking at it, and there are lateral ravines. In fact, the existing crossing that is south of this problem crossing, that crosses a lateral ravine. So it was pretty easy to conclude that your crossing a ravine is whether it's the main channel or one of the side channels coming in. So you have a crossing, and the terrain is such that if you try, you can't gravity, you would have to use a lift station. But I don't think you can get away from a crossing. And if you were, we'd be happy to get out there for another site visit, or staff could. If you start looking at the lay of the land, and you look at the grades and you look at the ravines, it becomes pretty obvious, unfortunately.
But, so here's a question. Are the other two more stable because there is not the erosion?
Yes.
Or is it literally because maybe the luck of the construction, that those two were construction, that it just was better done than the one that's having the issues?
Don't have the stormwater issue with the other two bridges like this specific crossing.
Correct.
Is there a benefit to combining them, or are we spending money for something that we don't have to spend money on?
Well, they're talking about the flow levels where we might have to have a lift station, but
Well, I thought that's if you combined all three.
Oh, you can only combine two. The northern one is a drinking water one.
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
So my understanding is that the current configuration is the shortest path of travel. It's currently in probably the best engineered
As it
path of travel.
sits currently.
As it sits. And staff, the pre-design we prepared with rerouting it is pretty sound, and it can be. It just takes it a little bit to the south, but you still have to cross the ravine. But I know Austin and staff expressed some concerns about maintenance, so it'd be good, really good to engage them again and have the board hear what their pros and cons are. They try to access it with the jet trucks, the cleaning TV vans, and I defer to them on that. They do that every day of the week, but they did express concerns about relocating it, making it possibly more difficult for maintenance.
Talked about several hundred feet of hoses and stuff if we had an emergency, or that, or jetting. So I think that's what Austin was talking about. And I would agree with him, especially if you have bad weather or it's muddy or something.
Yeah, that was the whole purpose of the middle crossing, is there's two manholes, one on each side of it, so staff could maintain that system easily.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that kind of figures it out for us right there.
Well, I think the maintenance is an issue, but it's also we have more control over hard to do maintenance than we do stormwater, that we have no control over their property. And that bridge, again, they have not seemed interested in maintaining it. I don't know why they would pick up the maintenance on the erosion now. I mean, they say they will, but if you show them a shiny new bridge and say, oh, I anticipate all of their promises to be gone. And so that will be, we're back into catastrophic bridge failure.
Yeah, there's no confidence with it
So
doing anything.
compared to catastrophic bridge failure, because we can't keep that up, that's a whole other maintenance
But this
problem
is,
and
if
higher.
these are set up like I don't know if they're like helical piers, but if they're helical piers and they go down to bedrock,
Yeah.
it almost shouldn't matter what the erosion factor is at that point, because those might be 80 feet one way, 20 feet, 50 feet, whatever the trusses need to support it. All of those piers should be on bedrock. So regardless of what's happening on the dirt around them, unless it gets down that far, I mean, they should be stable.
And that was the repair for that failing abutment, just what you're describing, piers to support that east side of the bridge, existing structure.
I think one of the upshots, even if Lakewood doesn't do anything with the stormwater rerouting, once the structure is no longer in use by pedestrians, the paths will
Well, they'll either
Diminish.
go away or they will diminish.
They,
yes.
and I think the primary cause of the erosion at that particular point is that there is a pedestrian path that's forming a channel for all of the runoff from the school.
Right.
And that's exacerbating the natural runoff. And I think that if the path is diminished, the runoff will diminish and it will be more widespread, and the likelihood of catastrophic erosion in the future will also diminish.
But we have so let's say Lakewood, we put in the helical piers, we put in this new trestle.
Mhm.
If we were to go in and do any dirt work to change, say if a civil engineer came in and said, do A, B, C, D, technically, are we even allowed to do that, or is it their property and they have to do that?
You'd have to get a permit from them, but they would probably allow that as part of the rehabilitation of the structure project. I don't know how far that would extend. Like, I don't know if they would permit destruction of the walking paths and stormwater runoff modifications. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, but any proposed drainage improvements, as Dylan said, would have to be approved by Lakewood.
If you are interested, I think that gully is a self-sustaining, it's a foot deep. It's self-sustaining at this point. It's not going anywhere else. So I think that's, without rehab, it's gonna continue. But if you are interested in fixing the current location, I would suggest that we would need to start the bid process again. The thing that caught my eye was this ravine bridge was like the first meeting I was at, and it was within the first meetings. And it came in so much higher than expected, and that was because of the piers, right? It was originally, we thought we could just shotcrete, and they did more engineering design work to stabilize it. So I think we may get different answers if we send out, now that we know this is what we want, if you specify, I want these piers in there, you may get more bids. We only got the one. And do something, go like that and get some more information. But I think that would be useful rather than relying on that one bid that we did get.
Terry, have you noticed an improvement in the bidding environment? Have you been getting more bids on projects lately?
No, the opposite. The opposite. Contractors are so busy. Costs are significantly higher, and they're busy enough that if it's a tough job, they don't need to bid it because there's an easier one for them to tackle.
So
Yeah.
Terry, is there any forecast right now in your world that is this going to slow down? I mean, is there anything in the foreseeable future that would make you think it's going to slow down?
Got your crystal ball?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they can see
exactly.
the capital projects, they can see what's out there, the magnitude of
Yeah.
what's going to be bid, so.
Yeah.
I think it could be a couple of years, Jeff, because I'm doing a treatment plan improvements and, the steel for the clarifiers is back ordered, and they've had to, they get price increases because nobody will hold the steel price for more than 30 days. And, I think it's going to take a while to catch up, especially with the way things are going in the world right now. Impacting the supply chain and where we get a lot of those raw materials. I think it's going to be a little while, is my gut feeling.
I think
Plus there's a labor drain.
Well, I would agree with him. So like where we're lead in the architectural, we are out. So we're starting to slow. And it was funny, I was just telling somebody the other day, we figure we have about 2 years worth of stuff before things will come up. I mean, that's where it looks just based on my basic
That's what I'm looking
projections.
for, but.
Yeah, so because we do everything in advance of the stuff. And when we're slowing, it means they're gonna slow, but it's gonna take it probably that long before that really hits the contractors.
So the issue would be if you're betting on that come, right, waiting for the 2 years to get more bids. What's your inflation index gonna do versus your, where's the?
I don't think that's
where's
the
the
reason
cross on
not to
that?
get a bid.
You
It's
don't,
to
you don't
me,
have a choice about it. We closed off that other bid, so we don't have a choice. If you want to, no matter what, you're getting bids.
Okay, so Terry, I guess the board would like you to move forward. We want to start taking Jeff bids on this thing and coming up with something to put out to bid.
So we
I
have,
don't understand it.
yeah, so we have.
No.
the-
Are you?
Well, you gotta be clear then.
Well, no, I'm asking if that's what you would like to do, what would you like to do first? Do you want to see the bids for fixing the one? Do you want to make that decision and go through that? Do you want to, you asked Terry to do a presentation on rerouting possibilities? Do you want to hear that?
Well, I think we need to move forward on at least getting the bid, or, we've been talking about this now.
I would like to get bids using that helical pier trestle idea. Because to me, I think that puts us in a solid position.
Have you been out there?
Yeah, about 1,000 times.
Yeah. You just said your dog.
I walk there all the time.
All right, so.
I'm part of the problem.
No, it's not a problem. I think it was obviously designed that way. So you would like bids for the
For the main.
to fix
Correct.
it,
Yes.
to look at that. Do you also want bids for the reroute? Do you want to look at that?
I don't think, because after listening to what they said about Austin, or what Terry said about Austin and the repairs, it sounds like it was done optimally to begin with. And to me, I guess my little pea-brain financial mind just says, hey, if it's optimized as it is, I would want to take care of the main thing and leave the others intact, because there's no reason to spend a bunch of money on something that's optimized or put in a lift station. I mean, stuff that we could get into significant amounts of money. Whereas if we can just do this one trestle, we might eliminate hundreds of, let's say $400,000 or $500,000 of repairs.
I would like to, go ahead. Dave.
Yeah, let me throw in something, because it reminds me of what I heard at the last meeting. I can't remember whether this was the issue or it was something comparable, but I was, when I was listening, it's like I want to raise my hand and say, oh, and what, I don't have an answer, so, I don't mean to be an obstacle, but on the other hand, as an economist, there are different ways to look at it. And the thing that strikes me is I'm remembering 10, 15 years ago, I think it was like 2008, whenever the recession was going on. And at that time, the economy was booming. And RTD was talking about, we're gonna put in these new lines and stuff like that. And they were going, oh my God, steel is going through the roof. And so RTD said, let's try to get ahead of it, buy a whole bunch of steel now, because it's gonna go higher. And at that point, gas prices were up like $4, and people going, oh my God, there's no end in sight. And I remember thinking as an economist at the time, everybody likes to go on the curve. It goes in one direction, but it doesn't. At some point, it goes back down again. And I remember thinking at the time with RTD, I know your point is valid, and maybe the price will go up, and you saved a lot of money because you bought a lot of steel. But on the other hand, the economy could collapse, the price would collapse, and all of a sudden you're stuck with a bunch of steel. That's exactly what happened. The economy went up and then it collapsed. And the people who had counted on prices going up, they had overextended. Now we're talking about the future, and it could turn around, and it does go straight up. I don't have an answer, but like I said, I was thinking in that scenario, if I was betting my own money, I smell a drop coming.
Well, it's obvious, but that's why I'm asking what they're seeing, because they can see what, to his point, they can see they've got bids for, they've probably got 2 years of runway. Then you're probably gonna go off a cliff, there's gonna be a cliff out there. Now, to your point as an economist, that the stock market and all that we could wake up tomorrow and that cliff is today or
Right.
tomorrow, so, so.
I don't have a crystal ball, but
No one does.
but it's something to think about. It could collapse, and we don't really need to be getting ahead of it.
And I don't think it was a savings of $400,000 or $500,000.
Well, I thought they were all like $750 in the original thing. And so if we could say repair this for $200,000 or $300,000 to me compared to 750. That's where I'm seeing those savings. If that makes any sense.
Yes, there would be a savings of not doing, you're
Right,
taking on the-
the savings is not spending the money on the other ones. It's not savings because we're getting such good prices.
No, it's just, it's not rerouting, that would be a savings, you're right.
Right.
It would just be, you're then assuming the risk of the erosion,
Correct.
and then you would have to add in whatever cost.
But
is
see,
there
if
to
they're
redo
stable,
that.
and that's what I didn't know, just because of the lay of the land, if those have remained stable, yet the other ones have eroded, I don't know why all of a sudden the erosion would increase there.
It's not gonna increase, it's just, I just don't think it's gonna decrease.
Right.
So it's still gonna be eroding, so it takes
So-
off half the life of it.
Yeah, so
I don't
that's
know,
my
Terry
thinking,
may
good or
be right.
bad, that's my thinking.
Well, the life, if we just put in a new trestle, you're looking at, 50, 100-year infrastructure life. We're probably well within the life of that system,
Right.
Mhm.
Are you saying I'll be dead before it breaks?
I'll be dead before.
Oh, are you going before me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's already been laid out. Right? I thought we were clear on this.
I would like to make something clear. There's a lot of things are discussed. It's all good discussion and a lot of different items, but the original bidding was not replacing the concrete twin T. It was just stabilizing that abutment with drilled piers and shotcrete and that sort of thing. If we want to go to a steel truss-like structure to support the pipe, which I think is a good way to go, it's no longer an attractive nuisance like a 6-foot walkway twin T. But that is tougher to do because in the interim, you have to support wastewater flow across the gully. And it's best to move over, just maybe 10 feet from the existing bridge. I'd have to take another look because it hasn't been looked at in this context. But does that make sense? The most cost effective, if you wanted to replace the twin T with a steel truss, is to put the truss in parallel to the existing, route the new pipe over it, then demo the old one.
Well, that would get you away from the stormwater issue too, wouldn't it, a little bit?
It does a little bit, yes, yeah. But does that make sense? You can't just pull, of course,
Yes.
the twin T structure that's supporting it off. You've got to go through those other steps. That maybe accomplishes a little bit of both. It's going to be more expensive, but it gets rid of the concrete walkway, if you will. You do get a slight relocation. But if we take a look with staff, with Austin, and we can move it, I'm trying to recall from memory, we'd go out and look at the site. My first thought is maybe to the north just a little bit, just enough so they can build that structure parallel to the existing.
That would make sense, and I think it would probably be to the point of helping to avoid some of the stormwater erosion.
Yes, you get out of the existing path in the process.
Is the easement big enough that you can move things just about wherever you want?
The easement legal description currently doesn't coincide with the actual location of the pipe.
Correct.
Whoops.
Can I withdraw that question?
Well, it's a good question, and the answer is
Yes. That came out in this whole process.
well,
And the district engaged a surveyor.
yeah, we'll have to survey whatever.
Yeah.
We're gonna redo the easement anyway, no matter what we do.
Yep. And we got, again, the surveyor is on board to do that work.
I thought we authorized the survey.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Yep. I talked to the surveyor just the other day. At that time, weather was a factor, and I talked to him again and he said, oh, probably I can have crews out there in a few weeks to start looking at that.
Okay, Terry, we giving you a good enough direction to move forward?
Yes, I think so. And just to restate it, we'll take a look at the site again and see if we can just relocate it, whether it's to the north or south. Working from memory, I think the north might work better. But if we can relocate it to build that steel truss type structure, there'll be all new drilled pier abutments to carry the structure, and then we demo the old one. And if that's correct understanding of this conversation, we'll start looking into that.
So those are twin T's, right? They don't have to jack them out. They could probably just crane them out of there, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. That's all I needed. Okay.
So,
All right.
and in the meantime, you are gonna prepare the design and RFP for the barricades?
Yes. Yeah.
And
And in a case like this, if we're designing this one, we design the barricade, of course, integral with the overall design. So we do separate barricades for the other two. Right? Which would very likely bring it safely within much less than 60,000.
All right, I think if we're good on the direction, we'll move forward. If everyone's, any other questions on the ravine issue, this has been, trust me, this has been going on for like a couple of years, more than a year or so. It's been really, really cloudy, so. All right, thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
All right, Jeff.
Thanks, Terry. So the next one, Terry might want to get on this one too. So, part of what we talked about earlier is the sewer lining project, which Terry's been working very hard on. So that project's approved. It's moving along. We have more documents here for Jeff to sign to get going on more of it. So it is $1 million project where they're lining the sewer pipes. That's basically, if you look on that map there, it's the very bottom south right of it, going to Bear Creek golf course. And so it's the American West Lining Company that's doing the work, and Terry's working very diligently on that to schedule it, get it going, working with, he has direct contact with the golf course because it's critical to schedule it because a lot of it's going through the golf course. So that's moving along. And also, any questions on that project? It's moving. Any other comments, questions?
You just need me to sign on the red signs?
Yeah, there's triplicate, so I apologize. If you have to sign each document 3 times, so I can get them out to all the parties involved.
Okay, that's
Sorry,
fine.
sorry
Just
about
on the red signs, right?
Yeah, they're all marked.
Okay.
Anything to add to that, Terry?
No, I think you covered it, Jeff. Those are the agreements, the bond forms, etc.
Yeah, and Dylan's looked at these with Terry. So. And then we talked about the CDM Smith report. So CDM Smith's an engineering company that had looked at the computer modeling of the capacity of the collection system. They verified 7 locations that Merrick identified that could be, if those systems were built out, could have capacity issues, and certain scenarios are based in that report. I gave the report to Jeff and Karen, and if anybody else wants, we can include that report. And you already sent it to 2 other board members if you want to see the report. So our goal is to work with CDM Smith and Merrick, and like I said earlier, to use our tools to visually inspect those systems for capacity issues, and also possibly look at flow inserts and keep track of that through both Merrick and CDM Smith. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that report or on see the report?
Yeah, send it to the other directors, please.
Yes.
The new directors. You have it, Todd?
yeah,
I thought it was, I just want to say the thing that stuck out at me on the CDM report was that it looks like they agreed. Their understanding was the same as our understanding, and it lends credence to our decision about the capacity rules update, that we stick to that 0.7 and 0.5. I don't know if you all saw it, but I think that is what I was reading in there. And I also thought that, I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so the capacity rules update, we'd like to get Jeff to sign that too. So here's the actual rules in red that we discussed in the last couple of board meetings. If anybody wants to see that, so we can get Jeff to sign that, we can update it on our website.
So we were kind of putting a law in their rule that, you know, before we had this like floating target of the capacity on a pipe, right? The capacity, how much percentage of the pipe. And we came out with a 0.7. And I think we were seeing variations from 0.7 all the way up to 0.9, right?
9999.
9999, and we don't want to go down that road. We want to set the line for future development, that when you cross at a 0.7, you're triggering an event, and that's just the way it goes. End of story.
And I think that the report said, because there was some discussion about whether or not you needed to adhere to such levels, and
As a,
And then the cost to bring that pipe into compliance or bring it down to
Yeah, it's the same
0.7, whether it be
exact wording.
expansion or whatever,
okay, cool.
that if it's on our
It's
part, we
common.
obviously fix it, but
Sure.
the developers will pay the entire part to
It's intense, right?
Yes, sir.
take care of their own, so that we're not subsidizing anything they do.
So pass it.
but it
so
does
they can
highlight
see it.
areas that we do need to fix that wasn't on our.
That's
on
for
our
you to
list
see,
before.
Dave, when you
Oh.
scan it.
So just a quick explanation. So where you come up with 0.7 is depth over basically the diameter of the pipe. So you look in those calculations where you see small d over large d. So meaning if you have a depth of, like I said, wastewater flows by gravity. So if you have a certain depth of wastewater and then you have a certain diameter of a pipe, it can't exceed that. D over D, small, it's in this book, definition, cannot exceed 0.7, which is common practice. Terry does this a lot, and we look at other wastewater districts that have the same common practices. So it's worded correctly. It was looked at the last board meeting. So we're going to put it in the rules and regs. And then there's a little clause on the bottom that shows, hey, if our calculations do show that depth over diameter exceeds 0.7, we're going to work, and that's what's coming up next. We're going to work with developers to see what our options are to solve that issue, to protect our infrastructure and our customers.
The other thing I saw in that report, I just need to point out, so they were looking over the work that Merrick did, and part of that process was to point out all the errors, and they did point out some errors, but so I wanted to say thank you to Terry, because on the scope of the master plan, the couple errors that they did come up with, I thought were, typos and whatnot, but it could have been a whole lot worse. So I thought that was a pretty good indication. You're always going to find errors, but I did not think they were significant.
Passing this on to
Roger, yeah, they can see it, or let Roger see it.
Oh, for the-
Then it needs to come back to Jeff.
So it's just a duplicate of last board meeting to make sure it's signed, because we're going to put it on the website next.
This
is as Jeff described.
One question I didn't see, they brought up in the CDM report was about the 12-inch pipes and smaller, Terry, and I don't remember seeing a graphic of that. Did you have one? I remember the analysis, and I didn't go back and look. Did you do an analysis of those pipes, or just the larger ones?
We did
50%
an
capacity?
analysis of all pipes in the system that served more than small subdivisions. So we went down to 8-inch pipe.
Okay.
Is that answer your question?
Yeah, And did you use the 50, I'll have to go back and look at it. Did you use the 50.5 standard?
We did, and again, it's common in the industry then to apply something like the 7/10 or whatever, if it's existing and you don't see future that will be exceeded in the future. There's a distinction between a brand new design criteria, existing pipe. And if you're designing a new pipe, you want to be more conservative because, you know, growth densities could change, you know, you're basing it on a lot of planning numbers and things like that. You want to give some conservatism. But if the pipe's in the ground and, you know, you're still under, say, the 7/10 D over D criteria, for example, if it's never going to exceed that, you usually wouldn't pay the money to just dig it up and replace it. Does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's kind of a little bit of the problem, is that it looks like we always get to that threshold and then exceed it and say it's okay. So I'm not quite sure how that works, but I thank you for the explanation. I'm going to go back and look at that again. So I think, and then the other question I had was, related. So thank you very much, Jerry.
Okay. Jeff?
So that covers all the capital and construction projects we have presently going on. So do we, any questions left for those projects that?
Right now. So we're going to move on to close agenda item number 9, and we're going to open up number 10, which is financial matters. So to the new board members, typically what we like to do is, you know, you can see that it's in the packet there. If you have any questions, you know, Todd pretty much gives us a once over. We'll make a motion and we'll just go into discussion to approve the budget. So I'll let Todd take over the financial.
Yeah, so I went through them all again and reviewed everything, and everything looks perfectly normal. So I would make a motion that we accept the monthly budget and the unaudited financial statements.
Yeah, does that have to be 2 separate motions? You can combine them. Okay. I'll second that. Discussion.
I'm not sure if this is the point to do it, but at some point I was going to ask. I saw something somewhere about, is there a law change or something about now we could take out CDs from credit unions, or in the past we couldn't? Is there something about that?
That's one of Todd's things. I think Todd had talked to this with Dylan. It's like it was so minuscule that it's not.
It's literally the day I came in to go over when they were auditing the financial statements, and I was talking to their outside CPA, and when I was talking to the gals, they had indicated that there were some potentially better or new financial resources for us. So I went to Doug with them, and they were pretty much already on the table, and they're no better than what we have. And so typically I will just tell you, I'm always disappointed that we have $20 million and it sits basically in a non-bearing instrument, most of it. So, I mean, instead of us making, you know, even 1%, I mean, if we could just make 1%, I would be thrilled, but we don't even get that. So it's kind of sad, actually, because of the safety.
We could go with credit union, but it's not.
Yeah, and it's
Credit unions are approved yet.
because we're a public, you know, nonprofit.
So
What did you just?
what you're asking about specifically is a proposed bill to allow deposits with credit unions,
Right.
which has been postponed, I think, indefinitely. So that is not passed. What you're talking about are alternative investments.
Correct.
That, those may be related things if the credit union bill had passed, but it's stayed, and I don't expect it to go anywhere.
So we really, due to it being like a public entity, I mean, it has to be so safe So it's kind of like we're just putting our money in the mattress.
Yeah. So we may be wanting to look up, now you guys are on board, we may want to move some capital projects forward, right? If we're gonna, I guess when you kind of reverse engineer this thing, it's like our money might be better spent now.
I agree.
And letting it sit in the couch, you know, and letting inflation chew away at it, plus we're not making any money on it. So those are the things, maybe pulling projects out of the future to the present.
But then the other side is interest rates may be going up now. So, I mean, we'll never be back to the good old days of 10% or something like that. But, you know, we might be 2 or 3%.
It's just something to kind of keep an eye on. It's-
Okay, I was just wondering.
Okay, so any further discussion?
Can I add something? So the auditors are scheduled, the people that audit us are scheduled to be in this meeting next month. We're scheduling them because they have to go through the, so you might have the opportunity to ask them more questions.
So all in favor of passing the 2 financial items, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays, so the April 2022, May 2022 daily monthly operation expenses and capital expenditures, coupled with the April 2022 unaudited financial investment report, has passed. Close out agenda item number 10, go to agenda item number 11, directors matters selection, we covered that. And then the engineer job posting.
Well, I just on the
Oh,
election, just briefly, as an update. I filed, received the oaths. Thank you for getting those to Jeff. Jeff got them to me. I got the bond. I filed those in the district court case and sent them to the clerk and recorder elections division. And like I was asking Jeff earlier, I will coordinate with him to get those sent to Department of Local Affairs, Division of Local Governments. So that's taken care of.
By the way, this is a aside. Remember when you sent me that document, here's the form to sign, and then it says you have to go to, and I think you gave me 3 choices. It was like the clerk of the recorder, or the clerk of the court, or the board president.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I went down clerk of recorder of Jefferson County. I'm like, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do that for our own employees.
No,
We're not gonna do it for somebody else. So, okay,
Yeah.
so what is working?
Well, I guess that doesn't surprise me. They are statutorily authorized to, but if they have a policy or they just don't know it, like I said, not surprising. I think almost everybody has it notarized or has a board officer sign it.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, way back, various other offices, I used to go to Notary Public.
Yeah.
Until I was kind of surprised, like, look at Jefferson County clerk and clerk. Okay, whatever.
speaking of the devil, so I would like you to, I guess I want to have the board agree on this, but I would like you to follow up and know what the hell exactly they did. I guess I would like to see some sort of a letter to the district, to the constituents on, what were your exact words, Dave?
What caused the district to receive an inadequate list of eligible voters?
Thank you.
It really had nothing to do with the redistricting, because those people were in our district before and after. I don't.
Right, so, yeah, I'm not gonna be good with like a 1-sentence thing or something, so. Yeah,
Yeah.
because, you know, I did spend a little bit of time, full disclosure, when this all happened, Karen had informed me if there was an issue. Took me about 24 hours of COVID brain fog to realize how bad this is. And then, well, yeah, I wasn't even 24 hours. She told me, I think Thursday night and Friday morning, I'm sitting there having my coffee and I'm going, shit, pardon my language, but it's like, got a hold of Dylan. We did try and, you know, we were trying to figure out what we should be doing from the district. And there were options we had put out there, but, you know, to Dylan's credit, and that's why we love having Dylan and his firm. You know, if we would have touched anything, we could have been in trouble. So we did try and get in front of this as fast as possible, but from the time we heard about it from Director Morgan till time we were actually, you know, hitting the ground running was, you know, within two business days. So we had to go over a weekend. So
Just a fun fact that I did from the numbers Sue Blair gave us, the amount of people that actually voted were only 15.38% of the eligible voters. So, I mean, it's sad that we missed 4,500, but if 15% of them voted, you'd be talking 400, well, actually maybe 600 more votes. I mean, which could change the outcome of things, but it's just interesting that of 26,000 some odd voters, only 4,170 actually voted.
And she's right that that's pretty good turnout for a board member. on an election.
I was gonna say, you guys see West Metro Fire, I mean, it's a much bigger district, and they just have like a couple thousand people out of a 500,000.
Wait, they didn't, you know, when I was, somebody told me, I went down the day of the election for that. And you had to go vote in person, I guess. I was kind of like, well, how come they don't mail out, you know?
They did a polling place.
And yeah, at West Metro headquarters. And then I was told that they were under 100 total votes that day.
Probably.
I wonder if they do it in person because it eliminates all the cost.
Yeah.
It can
That's
be
that's
cheaper.
exactly it. Well, I mean, you know, nobody's recording this, right?
But it's
Yes.
being
I
recorded.
know, I'm not sort of joking here. I used to be with the district. And the politics is, you know, the union wants to make sure that their guys get in. And so the politics is, the union, of course, finds one candidate for each seat. And they don't say anything. Nobody comes to an election. Well, sooner or later, somebody comes in and goes, oh, I think I would like to run. Well, at that point, of course, the union takes them aside and says, is there anything you need to run? I mean, we're doing the right thing. And if you run, now we have to have an election. If you don't run, we don't have to have an election. We save all the costs of having an election. So ordinarily, there is no election. When there is,
Wow.
when there is
Did not know
election,
that.
like this time, there was only one race. You had 3 seats up, 2 of them were uncontested, and the other one was because somebody wouldn't back down. And so you had that one race. And so the only people are running or voting are, you know, the union members and their allies and stuff like that. And they save costs. I mean, that's the way of the political world.
Wow. That's just interesting to me, 15%, 15.5% if that.
Well, when you go to the city elections, the turnout is more like 30%, which I guess more than what we got, but
Right.
still.
Wow.
Yeah, you do get better election turnout in November.
Okay, my fun fact time's over.
Alrighty.
What you might spend some time doing is calculating the cost per vote.
Well, I
Or don't.
actually did.
do that.
I did.
What is it roughly?
I think it was,
$30.
yeah,
It's
$30.
just to buy the ballots is $52,000. I got the bill yesterday.
that's what's, I mean, it's almost makes you wonder, except though that people, because of the contention that we had here during that one time, I mean, this just probably eliminates that contention. So you're spending $60,000 to eliminate a bone of contention.
Alrighty, so sternly worded letter.
Sternly.
Okay,
Maybe join with CRS and that. They probably have some questions of their own.
yeah,
Well, if there was, did she say that she had done 13 elections? Is that what she
She had
said?
9
Oh, nine elections.
and all of her, I don't know, I don't recall exactly if she said all of her elections or all of her elections in Jefferson.
She
County
said all in Jefferson County.
were affected. So I don't know if that's all 9 or if that's.
Yeah. That's interesting.
well, especially in this climate of, you know, people being sensitive to election abuse or anything like that, so. All right. Engineer job posting.
Yeah, so we posted the job on the Special District Association website, the Rocky Mountain Water and Environment Association website, Indeed, and Rocky Mountain AWWA, American Water Works Association, and LinkedIn. We had the best response by far on LinkedIn. So we probably had 10 candidates from LinkedIn. A lot of the LinkedIn candidates though are out of state and looking at being able to work remotely. And so we're in the process of interviewing some of the local candidates. We do have one civil engineer candidate that only would like to work part-time if that's available. So we're looking at those options of the candidates that live close by and maybe possibly a part-time candidate, if, depending on the workload and the cost, because we didn't budget for this job, and there is, right now at the present time, we don't have a whole, a lot of major projects going on where, we would still have to use contract engineering to do a lot of the capital projects anyway. So that's where we stand right now with the engineer job posting.
So do either of the new board members have any questions about that?
I have a question in general. Does the board normally concern itself with hiring in general? Or is this a unique case because we're looking for an engineer?
This is unique.
It's a new position.
Yeah, it's a new position, and usually the hiring that the board does is just the manager. The manager hires the rest, but we wanted to look at this new position. So we wanted to have a new position for an engineer. So, and that will fall under Jeff. We just have to approve the funding and everything to go forward and why we're doing it.
And it wasn't a budgeted position.
So our theory is if we have someone on staff, a lot of the preliminary and other work that we were subbing out, that we were hoping it would be better understood. We'd have someone all the time that could work on whatever we want, and it wouldn't necessarily cost us as much money. That's the theory.
Well, and when we're looking at, like working the master plans, capacity issues, we need this stuff, tap fees, all these kind of things. We want to have more a local hand on that. So
That makes sense, certainly.
No, I think you're right. Carrie just said we have a 0.5 limit on capacity for all the subdivisions, and we flew past that by half, and that's okay. So I think that's an issue that we need to be looking at on all of on all of our engineering. I wonder, Mr. Tyus, if you think, because it seems like some of the design work couldn't we be doing? You said we don't have work for him right now for a new engineer, whoever that would be, but would that be for designing barricades, looking at the ravine bridge design and bid, the Tamarisk design, that person will be able to do that as well as is that what you were thinking?
I don't think staff, in-house engineer with a small water district could not do actual design based on the resources needed to do, CAD drawings, design drawings, and approval drawings through the local authority, local governments. So, they actually put out the actual design itself for the government, local governments to approve and contractors to work off on is very expensive. I don't think we'd have to build that program. That's why small districts have district engineers, is because it takes a whole engineering firm to put out that drawing that is approved by the city of Lakewood and is used by the contractors to build something.
Well, I think that might be something that we should discuss then, because I think that if we have an engineer that doesn't have any software that he can work on, we might as well not have an engineer. So it seems like if we get an engineer, we should authorize the AutoCAD spending and the software for the master meter so that we can keep all that stuff. So I'm at a loss then as to what kind of engineering work you'd be doing. Does that make sense? What is he able to do without any software?
So the engineer, if we hired a staff engineer, so where I came from was Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Authority. We had 5 staff engineers, and it was actually a smaller. Well, we had treatment though, that was the issue. So, but we actually used Merrick Engineering was our one of our district engineers. So, along with another engineering company called Respect. So the staff engineers would work with those engineering companies, especially Merrick, to develop the drawings to get approved. And they would basically just do quality control, quality assurance to make sure, like Jeff was talking about, to make sure all our rules and regs fall within the standards. Green Mountain Water District, we don't have treatment, treatment systems are tough. So we rely on Denver Water and Metro Water Recovery to do our treatment. So we're just, in our system, we just do, collection and distribution. So it's not as labor intensive. So the only thing a staff engineer would do would mainly work with the district engineer, Merrick, to make sure, as a quality control, quality assurance, as a project manager, to make sure they're on track with time, to make sure bids are correct following, we do have a procedure in place where the district should send out the bids based on the design. So Merrick Engineering would do the design, and then the district would take over this to solicit the bid process. And then those bids should, based on that procedure, come to you guys, and you should have 3 bids, at least 3 bids, and you'll be able to see those bids. So that part of the bidding process would go through a staff engineer. So where I came from, Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater, they do quality control, quality assurance to make sure all the rules and regs, they continuously improve the rules and regs and the engineering standards, and then they would do the take control over the bidding process. So but then, like I said, that was a much bigger, even though we had less customers, we had the treatment part. So I can imagine, it's up to you guys. The cost, we examine the costs, and you're looking for the past 10 years, you're looking at an average of maybe spending $200,000 with contract engineers, but most of that is through capital. So you wouldn't save the whole $200,000 per year. So if you hire a staff engineer, you might be able to save maybe at the most 100,000 a year, but you're still looking at, because when Terry goes back to design these prints, he's got a whole staff of people who's generating those prints. It's not just him. So it's a few people who are generating these design drawings and these prints in order for, construction kickoff meetings. They want the print and they want to see the design, and that's what it takes to bid projects too. So we're flexible either way. We could use, we could quality control, quality assurance, project management, bids, continuous improvement on rules and regs for staff engineer. I don't think if we wanted to go full blown engineering, I tell you the truth, I've never worked for a complete system where, I worked for Coors for over 20 years, and we used Jacobs Engineering to do CH2 before Jacobs bought CH2. So we've always used engineering companies to design these huge projects to generate these drawings. So I don't think you could ever get away from a complete contract engineer.
Well, you need that stamp eventually, but then you look at the asset management and going forward, these projects we keep talking about and understanding our infrastructure, that's the type of project work I see an in-house engineer plus working, coupled with the staff. You're kind of doing what Merrick would do on a different scale. I mean, there's people in the staff here that know they have that tribal knowledge. They can get to the in-house engineer working for Jeff, who understands this stuff, right? Not everything requires a PE stamp.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But I guess I was thinking that we were hiring an engineer to do engineering. And what I'm hearing is that instead we're hiring an engineer to supervise the engineer. And I thought that is something we could rely on Mr. Tyus for. We did end up doing an engineer / you have your engineering background, and that was part of the perk. So I don't want to hire another engineer to do things that I thought we had a check and balance on already. I thought we were going to do an engineer to do some of the engineering work and some of this design stuff. And if we can get, I mean, with a single AutoCAD license, you can do the whole engineering suite. And I know because that's what I do for mining developments, and you do all of it and then you print it out, which we already have. So I know that there are different pieces, and I know everybody works together, and we may have to outsource some of that. And there will be whole projects that we'll have to outsource. As we talked about, some years we have $1 million in engineering. But I guess if we are looking at instituting just another layer of supervision,
Are we wasting money?
that sounds like redundant to me, because we did bring in a district manager with the engineer, and that was a little bit more costly than our last district manager for some of this reason. So I thought we had kind of done that already.
So what we failed to do when we instituted this, we didn't develop a business case. So, you know, we talked about it and it was all theoretical. You need to have a business case to do something like this. Have justifications and exactly how that's gonna work. And then, you know, your cost benefits, return on investments, those kind of things. Your business case. We have a direction we want to go. I just don't think we were very good about defining it.
Okay.
So we can probably need to look at this again. We got new board members now, so.
Well, somebody mentioned part-time. Is there a chance that there's, all we need is 20 hours a week average? And maybe there's somebody out there that stay-at-home mom that wants to do 20 hours a
Well,
week? Is there-
we were looking at that and, but it does get into the talking about having the engineer suite on the software, you are going to need a stamped engineer. And they are hard to come by. They're the unicorn right now, so.
Yeah, we're in the process of, we only have one local stamped engineer that put in for the position after advertising it in all those areas, so. But we do have one stay-at-home mom who's interested as a civil engineer, but she doesn't have a stamp yet, but that's part of her, you know, her wanting to be a part-time engineer is eventually get that stamp, so we do have options, and keep in mind too, that is, you know, the resources, you know, we're not budget, you know, we said this before, we're not only budgeted for the salary though, but when you get into, you know, buying all the equipment and tools and understanding of, you know, the software and stuff, it gets into expense too. So, and then, you know, we do have a.
Well, what do you pay for a single license? At our work, I pay about $7,500.
For AutoCAD?
Yeah,
Do you have AutoCAD? How many licenses do you have?
9.
And I don't know. I don't have my own license of it. I know
Okay.
that it goes up, depends on your agreement. I've seen some of them. They
Well,
say
we've
if you're
had
just a
them a long
standard, you're
time. I just
thousands.
didn't know like if we were getting some kind of a discount, like if yours
You
was
get-
10,
I don't want to, because they price it differently. Everybody's priced differently.
right?
And in the GIS too, everybody's priced differently. But I guess I understood, and that was part of my I guess I'm just assuming that we have to do all of these things. That was another question, because you had said at one point that you thought that maybe this part-time or remote work would work because we didn't have a staff, an office space for this person.
Yeah, that's true. We
And
do not have office.
See, and I would argue that even part-time, you need to have, we'll have to figure out how to make these things work.
Yes.
So I guess I'm thinking that for an engineer to do an engineer work, I don't think these rules and regs are pretty well set. And I understand that we have some deficiencies, but if we do 20 hours, 40 hours for the year on it, that's all I anticipate in updating. We haven't had to make major updates to the rules and regs regularly, maybe one a year.
So are we
So
even
I
in the
wanted
ballpark
design
of
work.
doing it? Well, yeah, and if we can't do that without a stamp, or we just,
And we made the decision, I can't remember, we made the decision that we had an hour discussion, right? To do a stamp or not. Do you remember what the decision was that we were going to look for
We
the
talked
stamp?
about it and the difference, first off, we didn't think we could come up with somebody with a stamp. You know, I think we talked about being about 180 or
Yeah.
north of there to hire that person.
Yeah,
And then if you could find them, and then you'd have to support the software stuff and, you know.
Mhm.
well, software is probably the cheap part.
Well,
of it.
it's the
You
cheap
have to
part.
have. I don't see a way around that.
Well, yeah,
unless you're just
I mean, you
purely
probably
supervisor.
have, because like, and obviously, if you have one license, you're probably putting it on a laptop, because if they have it here or take it home,
That's right.
I mean, that would have to be something portable, because they won't let you have it on 2 machines. It's not like
No, that's
you
true.
could have one here with them and then the person could have it at their home. They would want you to have 2 licenses.
That's true, that's true. But how do you even check somebody's work adequately if you don't have the software. So even for a super, you're pretty much, that kind of negates the whole point of, let's make sure we're doing that in-house and doing the work and getting all the right work done so that we know our steps are being followed.
So
With
I think
tighter
we,
control.
I think we need to do a business case if we're gonna, you know, we didn't do a business case. Justify it.
Okay. Are you suggesting that that is something the board take on, or can we authorize Mr. Tice to figure that out?
You worked business cases before?
Yeah, well, yeah, I've been working business cases my whole career. I have formats we could put together. And, you know, keep in mind too, that, you know, the job description itself is part of that business case. So, you know, the job description is, you know, what we talked about, what we wanted. So the job description does match what we talked about in the past.
Yeah.
And it says PE, and that's why if you read the job description, it's water utility engineer too, which says required professional engineering license. So most of the candidates we get do not have the PE because, you know, like you said, they're making candidates, the pay scale, if have 6 years of experience in the engineering company, you're working on bigger projects and making more salary. So that's why we're limited with our candidates. But we could put together the whole cost of, you know, if we hire this is the average pay scale of an engineer with a PE, this average pay scale of an engineer, entry-level engineer, you know, we looked at those, you know, with Highlands Ranch, Centennial Water, and Metro Water Recovery, and Denver Water hire engineer technicians that are, you know, EIT, engineering training, so their pay scales are lower. And then we look at the tools and resources needed to support those levels of engineering. One thing we did look at in the beginning was how much we pay merit. That's an important note to know that, hey, we've averaged paying merit $200,000 a year for the past 10 years. So I don't, you know, based on capital, like I said, it would take us a year to develop a whole in-house engineering program, which I don't see to actually eliminate that $200,000 completely. I don't see that being eliminated.
No, but if we could decrease it, and that was the only number that I needed to see. We do $200,000 to $1 million worth of engineering business. But that was for engineering, not for supervisory work. Terry will still have to be project management on those things that he does.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So we're walking it backwards now. So we need to have a business case, and then we have to have the board look at that.
Okay.
And come up with a decision on that before we go any further. That's what I'm hearing. Am I missing anything?
What stage of hiring are you in? Doing
Interviewing.
interviews? Yeah, first round or?
Well, yeah, so the qualified candidates, we emailed and discussed, you know, their interest in, we felt that it was better to have somebody live close by in case they have to come on site to see the project. So some of the candidates, we have one candidate out of Seattle, one candidate out of California, we probably would not interview at this time. So the candidates we're setting up the verbal interview questions with our local. So there's 3 local candidates and only one has a PE.
Quick question, how much is that PE important? The reason I'm asking, we have School of Mines right over here. Is there any way we could work out something with them that would give us basically what we need without having that PE and all that stuff?
Well, yeah, it depends on how far we want to go with the engineering work. So that's why we use CDM Smith and Merrick Engineering, and also Kristen Buck, who has a PhD and a PE. So we rely on them to do a lot of the major engineering work. We'd still have to rely on companies like that because they have all the tools and resources to put together a lot of detail, a lot of legalities of it, a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of different paperwork involved, whether it be drawings or bonds or contract, all these contracts that Jeff just signed come from Merrick Engineering dealing with the contractors. So there's a lot of work involved with these $1 million projects. So we still have to use somebody with a PE no matter what.
So can I make a suggestion so we can get our, we still got a lot to cover here. Can you, I ask you to take an action and do a business case, send it out to the directors. If we need to have another, if we have to have a special meeting on this because we're in a process, and I would propose we have a special meeting to TBD, but I think we were going in a certain direction. Sounds like we're walking it back. So I think we need to probably do something quickly on this. Doesn't sound like our minds were as made up as we probably should have been. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I can put together a business case. You want me to put the on hold interviews then?
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't really truly know what we want, I would not want to be one with the candidates. I mean, leading them on per se.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the committee report, Denver Water.
I gave y'all a report, we got together and looked at whether or not, what our goals are and reviewing our contracts. I would like to formally nominate Nathan Davis and Rick Bors to the committee. They're members of the public who contacted me after the last meeting, after the last board meeting. So
Want to give a high level explanation of what you're doing with the new board members?
you know, the new board members ran on knowing everything that's going on here. So I assume they know everything. And I don't need to say a word, but basically we're just looking at the Denver Water contracts and whether or not there's any room for renegotiation. That includes a whole lot of spitballing and brainstorming. So it was an initial brainstorming meeting. And whether or not anything comes out of that, I don't know. As we know, acknowledged it's an uphill battle, but
Okay.
Can I move to get Nathan Davis and Rick Bors on that committee?
I don't think you have to move. We approved the committee, so the committee can.
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to add additional members because the original committee was constituted by a vote.
Okay. All right, so I will second your.
Well, let me ask, can we have more people? Is there any reason why it has to be these folks? I mean, I don't know if anybody's interested, but could we ask if anybody else is interested?
Anybody else who is interested? Yeah. And I think that we just left it open last time. Yeah, so that's why we got Rick. Nathan heard, I talked to Nathan, you know, and Rick contacted the whole board after the last meeting. I'm not familiar with him and he was not available to meet this last time, but he's interested in continuing.
Okay. Because I'm thinking I might ask if anybody's interested.
Mhm.
I mean, as always, usually nobody is. If you
Right,
don't ask, you don't get, you know.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, but he did put it out there.
okay.
We did talk about putting it on the website. I don't think we ever decided on that, but we just left it open.
Okay. Well, I did second your motion, so we're in discussion now. It's two committee members.
So these two plus
Plus,
other interested folks.
Yeah, anybody else who would be interested, it's. Yeah, to
I'm just
work on this uphill
specifically
battle, but for
covering-
this motion is yes, for those two, please.
Okay.
Because they have already expressed interest.
Further discussion? Call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays. Motion passed. So those two members will be part of your committee on the Denver Water.
Do you
All
want
right.
to reopen that, put it on the website as a thing to do, or just leave it for people who've been listening to the meeting?
We can post it on the website. Do I need a motion then?
No.
Taking action to put that on our website to anybody interested in joining the committee on the Denver Water Report. Is it okay to contact you via email? Okay, Green Mountain.
Yeah. Although, yeah, I was just, that's my role, is to gather the emails and hopefully send them off to Alex. But I can do the nominations, get everybody official. Since we have a couple members though, can we get a OneDrive folder access for them for the so everybody can review the Denver water contracts. Are those, you can get them, but I think those ought to be public. right?
Yeah, that wouldn't be confidential.
So just the Denver water contracts in there right now.
So that'd be Jesse.
Yeah, I think you can
Just
just,
need their contact information.
Okay.
We'll do something separate now. We'll put it-
That would be great.
Separate.
I will send you. that information.
Anything else on that one, Karen?
No, thank you.
How about the legislation update?
The legislation update was just my summary of the last two, like, legislative briefs by the SBA, and then I threw some summaries from who writes the bill trackers summaries, the bill, to see what they are doing, because everybody was asking what kind of bill, why would we be interested in doing that? And there's a bunch of them that affect the district. There's a couple special district, there's voting, there's employees, there's all sorts. And then, so the district may or may not have the same opinion as the SBA on some of those. And then there's some other ones that I have no idea where the SBA is coming from on there. So I just threw those in there as to, this is just monitor where your money goes and what we're doing. So it's.
Well, and that bill that was up on special districts, that didn't go well. That was pretty wonky.
Which one are you talking about?
The one they just last week that kind of went sideways, so.
The
By the way,
Metro
what's the difference between 6 and 7? I'm trying to, I didn't put them side by side, word for word,
Well,
but
maybe I can get a copy of them again.
yeah,
Yeah, I did.
yeah,
I
it's
did
the description's the same for the two of them.
oh, okay.
It
Yep,
just
Thought it
apologies.
was main.
miscopied.
No,
Okay.
All right, well, if you're good on that, I'm gonna close out directors matters, and then we're gonna move into agenda item number 12, legal matters. I will yield to Dylan.
All right, thank you. So just as an initial matter, general legal matters. I'm Dylan Woods. I'm general counsel for the board. My firm, Cody Merchant Woods, is up in Evergreen. We were hired and took over representation of the district in July of last year. We were specifically not retained for litigation purposes. The district is engaged in a handful of litigation matters that I'll go into after my general spiel that I'm going to do right now. I'm going to circulate to you two, and if anyone else wants it, I'm happy to, copies of the most recent SDA board member manual. It's just a good resource. I recommend that you take a look through it. It's 40 pages, not real lengthy. I bring mine everywhere, every board meeting. Also recommend that you take a look at the bylaws of the district. They're 20 pages, not too long. They were updated late last year, I think.
January.
Early this year. Worth looking at just to see how the board conducts its business. And just as a general overview of your role as directors, you are fiduciary representatives of the district and its constituents. This district does not collect taxes, so you don't have taxpayers, you have ratepayers. The district could collect a mill levy if it so chose, but you just, mostly because of the master meter relationship, the water comes in, you buy the water, you sell the water. The sewage is sent out, you sell it. You buy capacity basically to send it down the road. Your role is to be stewards of the district's resources. So the resources of the district are, money, time, staff resources, their time, their expertise, the goodwill of the ratepayers, and confidentiality. So you have confidentiality with me. Things that you tell me that are related to district business are confidential. I won't talk about them to anyone that's not the district. But my relationship is with the board. The board acts on behalf of the district. So I don't represent any of you individually, and I don't have any attorney-client relationship with any of you individually, but I do with the board for the district. Relationships with other attorneys are a little different, and I'll get into that in a minute. One of the ways that you steward the resource of confidentiality is executive sessions. So executive sessions are an exception to the general requirement that all district business be conducted in the public, which is what we're doing right now. Anyone can come here, whether they're a ratepayer or not. Anyone can watch online because we're doing hybrid meetings. If there are certain topics under discussion and they are statutorily limited, there's 7 categories of topic that can be held privately in executive sessions. The big one for me is attorney-client privileged communications, and those are not recorded. It's only the board members, me, and anyone else that has a particular specific good reason to be in that conversation. There's also infrastructure security, whether that's digital or actual, physical. What we're going to get into later, which is negotiations. Personnel matters, that's the other big one. Hopefully we don't have too many of those, but that's the available one. Personnel matters can be held in public if the personnel require it. And the way that the confidence is stewarded for executive sessions is that it's Fight Club. You know, you don't talk about executive sessions. You don't talk about the confidential information that I provide you or that you receive regarding the district with anyone else outside of the district. With attorney-client privileged information in particular, that is something that only the board, my client, can dispense with. So if you do speak to someone about a privileged conversation that we have, that doesn't destroy the privilege, but you know, you horses out of the barn, you can't get it back, but you do retain it unless the board takes formal action to dismiss the privilege. The last thing about executive sessions is that it is for discussion, it is not for decisions. You discuss matters, then you come out of the executive session, you make a decision after continued discussion.
However, don't you can give direction to council in executive session?
Right, and negotiators. So
And
those
that's
two
kind of
purposes.
an action.
It is not considered a formal action within the context of the executive session rubric, but it is direction, yes. The board acts by majority vote, motion, second vote, with the exception of going into executive session, which is actually by supermajority. Takes 2/3, but 2/3 of a 5-member board is 4 members have to vote to go into executive session. Any questions? You're welcome to contact me with any questions that you have legally about the district. I bill, you know, I charge, I'm a cost to the district. I hope that I'm a benefit to the district, but every time I talk about district business, that is a cost that's incurred, just so you know. And
do we need any sort of permission, authorization to talk to you to run the meter?
No, if you contact me about district business as a director, I'll answer your questions. I'll generally what I do is I communicate in writing. If you call me with a question, I'll give you my short answer, and then I generally follow up with an email to the board. So I try to communicate with the board, even if I receive questions from directors. And generally on my billing statements, you'll see that as telephone conference with director, follow-up email with board, something like that.
Does that meet with board policy for any of us to individually contact John? There's no restriction, prohibition.
No,
We don't have to bounce it off of
no.
board first.
Yeah, that was the question I was just asking.
Yeah.
So the whole thing, like with even the titles we have, that's just for this setting here, everyone's equal, you know? So if you have something that comes up, or you have a question, you want to talk to Dylan or Jeff about, you call them. You don't need anyone's permission. There's nobody that's over you or under you.
I do.
That's not exactly what I was asking, but you've answered the question.
Yeah, there's no.
I mean, our feeling as a board for individuals just to approach council when they feel like it, apparently that's acceptable.
Well, yeah, so, you know, we all have, you know, you see things with Director Morgan there. She spends a lot of time with this district, and she'll generate a lot of questions and stuff, and, you know, does a good job. I mean, there's other, we individually call, like with the election thing, I called Dylan immediately, it's like, you'll know what your feeling is. It's like you're 1/5 of this district, and if your spidey sense tells you that something's up, you probably ought to be making a call. Start somewhere.
I do represent some districts that have a policy of only the president and the district manager, for example, or more accurately, the president and the fire chief. So there's a chain of command issue, but there's nothing in the bylaws of this district.
Yeah, well, that's what I was asking, because I knew there were some groups that don't do that. You have to go through the chain of command. But we're okay.
There was a belief that was like that before. No, that's not really in practice how we do things here. So
Very good.
the titles are just for the quorum for around here to vote.
And obviously we need use of discretion and stuff like that, but that's why I clarified, because I think it was an issue before.
And there are responsibilities associated with the titles. So president and vice president execute the contracts, secretary keeps the minutes, except it's been delegated to a contractor. Oh yeah, the last thing. 3 board members meeting is a meeting. If you are together and you are talking about district business, that is a meeting. So don't do that unless it's been properly noticed. And that includes emails. So try not to reply all. That's one of the benefits of the board at Green Mountain. It's a way to distribute information to the board. Try not to reply all if there are more than 2 other directors on the email.
Do you have any reaction to the stuff from Douglas County School Board? Walking quorum and stuff like that?
Well, no, I don't. One of the exceptions with the email things is that you can coordinate things like, hey, when should we have a meeting? But once you get talking in substantive matters, that's where I draw the line. So if I'm ever on an email and I see discussion, I'll send out an email with everyone blank carbon copy and just say, stop talking about district business.
Well, the Douglas County thing, so concerning is, in theory, if I was reading the article, right, they're saying you have a conversation one-on-one, and you turn around and have a conversation one-on-one, you have a conversation one-on-one. Next thing you know, that's what they call the walking quorum, or that's a meeting.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
how in the world can you get anything done? You can't do that.
Yeah, and I'd say if it feels wrong, don't do it. If you're skirting something, don't do it. You just have it out in an open meeting. But I don't represent Douglas County. So
I can't figure out what to do. What did occur to me, like with Roger and I being newbies, it might be good if together we met with you to discuss some of these legal things. That way you're not repeating yourself, and we're cutting the cost in half.
Sure. And one of my suggestions is that I can just put together a memorandum of the current, not just legal affairs of the district, but the district matters that I'm involved in, sort of the current status and my direction with those. And I can circulate that to the entire board so that everyone's more or less on the same page. So I think that would be helpful for everybody, including me, probably. Moving on to what is now 13A. Just real quickly, I'll tell you the litigation matters that the district is involved in and the current status. There is a lawsuit, Green Mountain versus Snowgold Sea Group Co., which is the law firm that represented the district several years ago, which is tangentially related to the Big Sky litigation, which I'll get into in a minute. That was brought by the board, brought by the district, and is currently stayed. There's nothing to be done in that litigation because its conduct, its prosecution depends on the ultimate outcome of the Big Sky litigation. So I am counsel of record in that case. Every 90 days, I submit a status report to the court saying there's no action. Please continue to stay the case. And the court says reviewed. That's coming up May 26th. Is going to be the next status report. The Big Sky litigation is several years ago. about 5 years ago, the district entered into an intergovernmental agreement for provision of sewer service to a large area of property outside of the district. After executing the intergovernmental agreement, a subsequent board by resolution rescinded that agreement. The rescission of that agreement led to the interested parties suing the district to enforce the intergovernmental agreement. The tentative conclusion of that was that the district court found that the intergovernmental agreement, as drafted and executed, violated Tabor and the Local Government Budget Act. So the district won that. As the prevailing party in that litigation, the district was entitled to its costs, which are filing fees, copy costs, expert report costs, not attorney's fees specifically. Scott Gessler and his firm Gessler Blue is counsel of record for that. The hearing on costs is actually tomorrow. And my partner, John Cody, is the expert witness for those costs. You just have to prove that they were reasonable and necessary to be awarded them. So we'll see how that goes tomorrow. More broadly, the order finding that the intergovernmental agreement was void ab initio was appealed by the non-prevailing parties, which are a developer district and associated developers. They filed their opening brief about 6 weeks ago. Scott Gessler Blue, was also counsel of record for the appeal. He filed his answer briefs last Thursday. And I believe that those were circulated to everybody.
So we can get them?
Yep,
I haven't seen them.
it's public. Yeah, I can circulate that. I'll also, each month I send out all of the documents that have been filed in all of the litigation cases with just a brief summary of them. The next step in that appeal is going to be the reply brief or briefs. That'll happen in the next 3 to 6 weeks, depending on how many, if any, extensions of time are granted. The ultimate order in that is going to be sometime mid 2023, I would say, the way things are going with the Court of Appeals. There's also another appeal that's being prosecuted by the district. Some homeowners experienced a sewage backup into their house. They sued the district. The district claimed governmental immunity. That case is being prosecuted and defended by the Lane Law Firm, which is funded by insurance.
Is that the one that happened several years ago? Was that?
Yeah.
Was that a newer one?
It's several years ago. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a 2019 case,
Yeah,
I think.
okay.
That's fully briefed. I don't think it's been assigned a panel on the Court of Appeals yet, so that'll probably get an order into this year. And if the appeal goes the district's way, the case will be dismissed on immunity grounds, and if it doesn't, it'll go back for.
Is that one that would be covered by insurance?
It is. It is.
And what sort of, I don't remember what were the numbers involved, costs or damages or.
I have no idea. It didn't get to that point.
And who's litigating that?
The Lane Law Firm.
And they were chosen by the insurance people?
Yeah, so the district is insured by the special districts pool, and there's 50 or 60 attorneys that are members of the pool, and they're just, I don't think they're assigned at random, but they are picked by the adjuster to represent the district. And
so there's really nothing for us to do on this one, but.
Yeah, nothing at all.
Gotcha.
Nothing for the attorneys to do even. And the last case is former counsel for the district, Ms. Timmons, Mary Jo and Desiel Timmons, has sued the district, two directors and one former director.
Yeah.
In their individual capacities, and the district itself, and John Henderson, former associate of the board, for violation of her constitutional rights. That case is also being handled by Bill O'Connell of Wells Anderson Race.
What's the damages she's looking for?
She's seeking injunctive relief on a defamation claim, so stop saying bad things about me.
It doesn't cost anything.
And money damages to be proved at trial, which are generally lost to opportunity income, damage to reputation, money damages, and I don't know. I don't know if I think she's eligible for fees under section 1983, which is the civil rights claim. I don't know if that's I don't know what the relationship of the attorney's fee shifting provision is vis-a-vis Mr. Henderson.
Is there going to be any triple damages or anything, or?
She hasn't alleged punitive, she hasn't requested punitive damages, having not alleged actual malice.
Is there any numbers associated with any of that?
No, it's too early in the litigation for there to be hard numbers associated with anything. It's currently in the pre-discovery phase. It's been assigned to a magistrate. The scheduling conference is in June 26th, I think.
You said it's federal court, so
It's federal court.
down in Denver.
Yep. Bill O'Connell is representing the district. I am also representing the district. I've entered my appearance just for the purpose of maintaining and observing, keeping.
And again,
an eye
this
on-
is insurance cost covering it.
Yes. And Mr. O'Connell also represents Mr. Baker, Ms. Morgan, and Mr. Plotkin, former director. He will probably speak with the board at the July meeting after the scheduling conference, because until that happens, there's probably not going to have been any activity in that case.
You want to let Director Whiteman know who the plaintiff's attorney is? Is that okay to?
Sure. So Ms. Timmons is represented by Charles Torres.
Oh, that's like that. It was,
He is.
okay.
Mr. Henderson is represented by counsel selected, I assume, by his malpractice carrier. I don't know the attorney himself, but Mr. O'Connell, who represents the district.
Well, Henderson's not a citizen of Colorado anymore. Doesn't that create kind of a certain legal problem there? How does,
Oh, no, I mean, you can be sued.
does he have to come all the way out here?
He's got local counsel.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yeah, so he has a Colorado attorney.
Who's that, you know?
I don't recall offhand. I haven't been communicating with anybody except Mr. O'Connell. So those are, okay, so there's actually one other case, which is the formation of the district case, which is where I filed the oaths. So that's not litigation, but there is a district court case that where the district court 70 years ago approved the formation of the district. So that's always active. Every special district has one of those.
That was going on my head. What is this?
So special districts are formed ultimately by order of a district court of
Right.
the county in which the district sits.
Right.
There are a number of compliance related requirements for special districts, including filing the oaths of office, which you signed with the district court.
Oh, yeah, we do that all the time.
Right.
Oh, okay, that was some sort of court. Some case we were gonna be.
No, it's technically litigation. There's no adverse party.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's more like administrative law.
Sure.
Unless there are any questions about litigation, moving on to the red zone tank. Jeff and staff put together the total costs of dealing with the lining failure. And I am preparing a demand letter to the bond, the surety, and Kablaco, the contractor, for reimbursement of the district's expenses. I got those expenses the 28th of April and have not sent that letter yet, but I will get that out.
Can I, speaking of that, so Jeff, going forward on this, I mean, we process guys, right? I want to know if I can't speak out of turn, this probably should have been under engineering, but it seems to me we should have never lined this tank ever. And I guess, you know, getting back to the root cause of this and going forward, this kind of gets into our rules and regulations, Karen, you know, or maybe having an engineer. It's like, I don't think we should have been lining these tanks with this way ever.
I think we end up with a lot
Did I
of,
miss something?
lot of lining and
And that kind of puts us, it could have put us in a tier 1 violation with the, long story short, old tank up here, Green Mountain High School, right? We lined it in 2011, it failed. We lined it again. This is what he's talking about. It failed like quickly. Problem is we had blisters and stuff like that, which could have, you know, that could have presented a problem. A lot of different types of problems. So going back to the root cause analysis, if the root cause is we should never line tanks like that, then we should never line tanks like that. That's the long and short of it.
So the tank is currently not lined. All of the failed lining has been removed and has been returned to service.
Thanks for doing a great job on that, by the way, staff and everybody.
Yeah, staff did a great job.
Quick turnaround. That we were not sure if we were going to get it back online in time for this season here. That's, you talk about risk and resiliency, would have put us in a little bit of a pickle.
Is that the one we're gonna talk about last few meetings?
Yeah.
Okay, somehow I had the impression it was up there.
That's the one right on top of Green Mountain High School there.
Okay, didn't realize where it
Right
was.
by the dental office area behind it. Yeah. The red zone.
Didn't realize where it was, okay.
But this lining process is common practice. I mean, why did we decide on this in 2011? And what's the
I wasn't here in
alternative?
2011, but so I will let Jeff speak to that.
Yeah, so the history of the tank, the tank was built in 1961. It's a concrete tank, and they did a drawdown test in 2008 that they filled up the tank and let it sit and measure the level, and they thought it was leaking in 2008. So they put in a epoxy liner in 2011, plus did some other work around the tank. And then when they inspected it by 2018, that liner needed to be replaced. So the decision was made that, hey, if this liner fell, let's just put another liner in. So this liner, they went in, hired Kabako, American Engineering oversaw it, along with another quality control, ATD. They looked at it and determined, okay, there's a lot of rules now for chemicals used in drinking water. One of them has to apply by this National Standards Federation 61 ANSI. So they made sure the primer on the wall was NSF 61, and then the epoxy they put on top of the primer was NSF 61, but the primer didn't hold back the moisture in the concrete. So the moisture in the concrete came through the primer, bubbled the epoxy lining. So it is somewhat of a common practice to put epoxy lining in concrete tanks, but there's a lot of, due to contaminants in drinking water now, it's hard to find good chemicals that will, adhere to concrete that won't also put certain chemicals in drinking water. So as Jeff said, we probably could have got by with just putting that NF61 primer on the wall. And that's what's left in there now is this NF61 primer. So our job as a staff is to track the tank and make sure that primer can hold up for the drawdown test next winter to see if the primer is just sealing the concrete enough so it doesn't leak.
That was another long, drawn out process.
That helps quite a bit, though. It makes sense. It answers my question about an alternative, just use the primer.
Yeah, approved primer.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
So we're suing them. How much money are we talking about?
Well, we're not suing them. We're making a claim against the bond for reimbursement of our costs.
Under warranty.
Oh, okay.
How
much is that?
It may lead to litigation, yeah, possibly, but I'm hopeful that it doesn't. I think the costs are in the you know, probably the $60,000 to $70,000 range for, I haven't gone through the documents yet.
Do we have a sense that they're gonna contest it, or are we gonna get it?
They took some tests of I think there's a reasonable likelihood that they will contest it, but I also think that there's a reasonable likelihood that it's a small enough dollar amount that they won't.
If they did contest it, who paid the legal fees? Would it be our insurance or?
Depends who wins. On an ongoing basis, probably the district would have to pay litigation counsel out of pocket to prosecute the case. Generally, insurance covers defense, not prosecution.
Right.
But I would probably recommend that we make a claim anyway if it gets to that point, you know. Asking to find out the answer is no, rather than assuming the answer is no.
Well, the other thing comes to mind is, worst comes to worst, if it's $60,000, we might spend more than that trying to litigate it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the question is gonna be, what do you do about the value of work that you didn't receive? Because you paid $900,000 for the whole project. The tank lining itself was a quarter, a third of that. So you didn't get the value of $250,000 worth of a contract. And it cost you $60,000 to get yourself back to the point where you were at the beginning. You definitely get the 60 back, I think. I don't think that there's going to be a fight over that. But the board's going to have to make a decision about what it wants to do about the lost value.
I was going to ask about that. When do we need to do that and what are our options? It seems like we can,
Now
we're past the time that we can do that, right? We could do that anytime.
Yeah, you can, that demand can be made at any time. I guess I would recommend that it not be made before we get a response on the 60.
So that goes into the thing, why did we do it in the first place, right? So,
It is what it is, you know.
well, yeah, I hate that.
It's water
I
under the
I
bridge.
literally hate that.
It's water out of the tank.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Economists are always about the sunk costs, like, oh, well,
Well,
what's done is
so
done.
process people, it's like, you don't do anything without a good reason. And if you, something failed, there's a real reason. Or
And don't do
several.
it.
And don't do it again.
Yes.
You kind of like, then you kind of like build firewalls around that. So you quit doing that. So.
Right.
Yeah, the standard operating procedure would be any tank that could be lined, measure the moisture in the concrete walls. So that would, you know, if this, depending how far this goes, is he would ask all the people, contractors involved, if anybody measured the moisture in the concrete walls. That's what really caused the problem. And then, you know, Cablaco did spend a whole week removing most of the liner. So the original bid was $60,000 to remove the liner, but then we just had to spend $30,000 cleaning up their mess after they left. So I don't know.
Yeah, so there was sort of payment in kind,
Yeah.
payment by labor instead of money costs. So, and I'll incorporate that into my letter. There's no sense in demanding dollars that weren't spent. I'll go into the 10700 Expo. I think you can just roll the executive session into my conversation if you want to do that after I have my brief explanation. There is a development going in at 10700 West Exposition that is going to overburden downstream sanitary infrastructure above the 0.8 level. It's already above the 0.7 level. As part of the approval for that development to proceed, the district entered into an agreement to agree, basically, for a cost sharing for upsizing that downstream infrastructure. Director Morgan and Dave, former director Dave, have been in negotiations with the developers representatives for that cost sharing. And so far, attorneys aren't involved. At some point, we'll get involved in a more formal fashion once the negotiations conclude and we develop the cost sharing agreement between us. And I'll bring that to the board for review and approval. But Director Morgan probably has something to say about the state of those negotiations and requests instruction.
I do. I would like to, we did meet with the developers and I would like to give you an update on those and see what we want to do next. So I'd like to do that under executive session so that we can continue negotiations. I would also like to invite Director Gardner to give that he was lead on the negotiation. So if it would be okay to include him in that executive discussion. Any objections to?
So you have to make a motion.
So I will make a motion, if that's okay, to enter into executive session for the purpose of negotiations on 10700 West Exposition Avenue with the inclusion of Dave Gardner.
I will second the motion. Any discussion? Call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes. The motion passes. Jesse, you want to?
And Nick, yeah, Nick, that is pursuant to Title 24, Article 6, Section 402, Sub 4, Sub E, Colorado Revised Statutes.
Thank you.
So you're still here, didn't
No. You should have left when Alex did.
Yeah.
I'll
It's only about halfway through, what do you think?
Yeah. Great, thanks. The executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were the board of directors, Jeff Tyus, district manager, me, Dylan Woods, attorney for the district, and former director David Garner. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. Seeing none, we return to the regular agenda for continued discussion of the 1070 West Exposition Avenue project.
All right, so I would like to move then that we continue negotiations with the 50% level. And that Dave Garner continue to lead that as we finish off here.
I will second the motion. Discussion.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the motion?
To continue negotiations using that 50% number as a basis, and that Dave Garner finishes off there.
Call for discussion. Call for vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have 4 ayes, 1 nay. The motion passes. Dave, continue on with the negotiations.
Who was against?
Dave Wickman, nay.
So, yeah, I'd just like to say that is a huge step, and just remember where we were when we were being told just a couple months ago that there was nothing really to discuss here. That this was a done deal, we had looked at this before, just forget about it, pass it on. And even though we had the master plan results, that we were being told not to even look at those red areas. And so all of this is really a culmination of the work that Jeff Baker's original board with Alex and Adrian and started with looking at the engineers. And now we finally got through that master plan and we put all of that together to be able to ask for something like this and know how it affects our system. So it really is a big step forward for us.
That concludes my legal report. I don't believe that there's any reason to have an executive session for litigation purposes.
Okay. All right, we will close agenda item 11 and move for, that would be 13, and go to agenda item 14, new business notifications for next board meeting. Anything?
Sounds like the audit's gonna be on. next week.
He's putting it on the, it'll be on the agenda for the audit. Okay, with that, I'm going to close that out, and I will motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second motion.
We have a second discussion. No discussion, call for vote.
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 nays. Meeting is adjourned at 10:01 PM. Thank you, everybody.
Can I
Please
make a
tell me we're
suggestion
not
that
gonna
you
go
may,
through tonight.
I don't
Yeah.
know, prepare
It's not
something
normal.
maybe. But it sounds like
No, we've
there's
only done that
confusion
once,
about what
but
we can
we go.
ask the developer.